Part 41. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 403. The battle pet arena in the inner city is a place that feels more advanced. Its style is different from the battle pet arena in the outer city. It seems that the overall structure is a square structure, and what is presented is also a kind of square structure. Very clear and crisp architectural style. Different from the retro style in the outer city, it has a somewhat luxurious look. Of course, this is also to match the nearby architectural style. Otherwise, just one building with this style would be too conspicuous. Jia Yan walked through the buildings, and he had to be careful not to damage the buildings in the city. If he accidentally stepped on the sign of any store, it might cause a legal incident. It's rare for him to go to such an extent in order to regain his strength. Since his rebirth, Jia Yan has developed a style of doing things his own way. However, during a period of time on this planet, he hid all his styles. After all, not only does his combat strength not fully improve now, after recovery, and on this planet, he knew that there was a more powerful existence than himself during the victory period, so he no longer let go so much. He took steps and followed Nagatan. On his body was riding Daifuni. This woman has also become famous recently. She is the true master of the assassin. This name makes many war pet lovers. I was extremely surprised to know that Daifuni is a female. Even in interstellar civilizations, the status of magnetism is the same as on Earth. How can any female like such a thing as a war pet? And to cultivate such a powerful battle pet, as a female, it is definitely very rare. And what makes those Asta men like even more is that although this female does not look like their purebred Asta people, their aesthetics can completely understand the perfection and beauty of this woman, so even if this woman she never accepts any interviews, but there are still many fans who put some of Delphine's wonderful candid photos into the city's network system for people with the same preferences to share. Even her charm. It's so big that there are some Asta people. Even though he didn't like battle pets, he still got to know her. It seems that beautiful women tend to stand out easily on any planet. Unlike Jia Yan, if he wants to be famous, he has to fight to the death with others. But what no one knows is that Daphne, whom every male Asta coveted extremely, was not the master of the assassin at all. On the contrary, she wanted to call Jia Yan master, and she was a prisoner of war. It's not that she doesn't want to be interviewed, it's just that the mosquito refuses. She cannot be allowed to come into contact with other living beings at all. Look, everyone. The person entering over there is the battle pet from the outer city, the assassin. This battle pet now lives up to his name. He has become the strongest assassin. Look, everyone, what powerful feet he has. Look at his strong figure, what a different kind of beauty it is. The commentator was explaining hard on the commentary platform. At this time, he, full of expressiveness, and this person is not the commentator from the outer city, but the commentator from the inner city. Compared with the commentator from the outer city, his strength has been greatly improved. He is completely a very professional person. Jia Yan stepped into the battle circle. He had experienced similar situations no less than 10 times, and he was already familiar with it. And just after it appeared, the opponent over there also appeared. It was a leopard-like one, but not too big. This leopard is extremely fast. But Jia Yan didn't care. He just looked at the audience stand as usual to see if there was anyone who could pose a threat to him. Not long after, Jia Yan's eyes suddenly froze. I saw a huge white body appearing at the top of the high audience stage. This body has a figure that is not much different from Jia Yan, but it has the appearance of a beast. Compared with those similarly huge war pets, it has a condensed and unyielding demeanor and a strong sense of strength all over the body. All made Jia Yan understand that he could not be an ordinary character. When Jia Yan was looking at this life form, The other party seemed to notice his observation, and quickly turned its gaze over. The eyes of both parties met in an instant. Hey, the white life form on the audience stage made a faint sound of surprise and uncertainty. Under the influence of the brainwave power, its body no longer looks like a white life form to others, but an ordinary huge life form. But the first time the big mosquito looked at it, it seemed to realize that its brainwave power disguise seemed to be ineffective against this big mosquito. Interesting, the white body showed a hint of interest. The eyes of the two sides faced each other in mid-air for a long time. Jia Yan slowly turned his eyes back, because the pet battle had already begun. The leopard-like battle pet opposite had 4 eyes. Just when Jia Yan was distracted, it roared and pounced forward. What a noisy guy! Jia Yan cheered up and tried not to look at the white monster over there. He also found that the other person seemed to have an extremely powerful brainwave power surrounding his body, but this power could not defend against his brainwave power. So Jia Yan could see the situation inside at the first time. Jia Yan's body moved quickly, and the leopard monster that attacked was thrown away. The monster in front of him could not be Jia Yan's opponent. Jia Yan's attention at this time was almost all on the monster on the audience stage. His expression was a little solemn, because at this time he discovered that the other party's attention was almost entirely on his body. Jia Yan didn't know the origin of this monster, but he could sense that the opponent couldn't really come to watch some battle pets, because it didn't seem to be interested in his opponent at all, but was interested in it. Every move he makes is full of attention. If Jia Yan had the opportunity to watch more TV media on this planet, then he should know that the true identity of this monster is the diplomat from the biochemical country that everyone in the city is talking about now. But because he had to control Daifuni to get close to technological items, it was only natural that Jia Yan did not see the news and did not understand the identity of the other party. Can the monster below see my figure? It's indeed a monster that even my dad is paying attention to. It's really interesting. On the audience stage, the white monster stared closely at Jia Yan's movements below, showing great interest in its big eyes. How is it possible? Sir, your brainwave power is so powerful and perfect. How can this lowly war pet break through your brainwave power and see your body shape? Or should I say, no one in this city can break through your brainwave power. Wave power, you are invincible in this city. Next to the white body, there is a monster that looks like a rat monster. Sitting next to the white monster, I heard the white monster's suspicion. He quickly complimented. The white monster just smiled and ignored the rat monster. The battle below is still going on. Jia Yan felt uncomfortable looking at the white monster above him. At the same time, he was also impatient with the leopard monster in front of him that kept disturbing his defense. Finally, after a minute passed. He originally wanted to wait a little longer and win only if he showed his strength, but he gave up. Under anxiety, Jia Yan stretched out his front feet. Bang! The leopard monster kept moving and attacking in the air. A sudden lag. The next moment, its body and head. Something red and white splashed out. Jia Yan unexpectedly stabbed the opponent's head lightly with his front foot at the moment when the two sides crossed each other, and then pulled away beautifully. When doing this, his eyes did not move at all, he just glanced at the huge body on the audience stage. A powerful sound erupted from the audience stand. In the battlefield where battle pets compete, death is not uncommon. However, the assassin has always entered the top 25 in a state of not killing, and now actually, in this situation, he killed an opponent cleanly and neatly. Look at it, everyone, what a crisp and clean assassination. This is the first time that the assassin has killed his opponent in this competition. Does this mean that the assassin finally faces the game seriously? Or is it because the opponent has already brought too much trouble to him? Under pressure, the assassin who has always refrained from killing can no longer be merciful? Lock the Battle Pet Competition channel. In the next battle, we will unlock the secrets for you. The host over there delivered the results of the program in a timely manner, and he did an excellent job of grasping the situation on the battlefield. However, after the big mosquito stepped down, as a longtime host, it seemed that the host looking at the back of the big mosquito, there was suddenly a touch of solemnity. As a host, he was actually a combatant with good brainwave power in this war city. This was his first combat commentary on a big mosquito, and he discovered that the battle pet was not that simple at all. Maybe he has brainwave power. It seems that Black Tornado really has a good opponent. The most that the host could think of was this. It was impossible for him to imagine the mosquito's combat power to be even more powerful, because no matter from which angle it was viewed, it was almost impossible. Jia Yan finally walked out of the competition arena at his own pace. His attention was always on the white life form behind him. And that guy, after he stepped down from the stage, slowly stood up and exited to one side. Audience stand. Haha, it seems I was noticed after all. Jia Yan's expression was less indifferent, but more solemn. In this strange place, he tried his best not to cause any killings, but that didn't mean he was afraid of anything. If something bad happened, Jia Yan wouldn't be worried or afraid at all. Just kill. What happened? Jia Yan came to power, but Gyutin didn't show any sign of killing his opponent because of him, but Daifuni asked quietly using her brainwave power. She knew the strength of Big Mosquito. Since he had adhered to the path of not killing before, it was impossible for him to change his policy all of a sudden now. There must be some reason. The Big Mosquito looked at this woman, and the murderous intent in his eyes disappeared in a flash. He had murderous intentions. Jia Yan didn't know if something unexpected would happen later. If he was forced to escape then, he wanted to kill this Daifuni now. Otherwise, his origins, methods and even strength may be revealed through this woman. We agreed on a month before, but it's not even here yet. Do you want to kill me? Daphne seemed to understand the Big Mosquito's thoughts, and asked lightly with a brainwave sound. Jia Yan was speechless and stopped making any sound. The group of people exited from the player stand just like before. There happened to be a top 25 monster that had also advanced, waiting for the competition in this passage, and Jia Yan passed by it. This monster wants this future opponent. Show your fighting spirit. He turned around and collided directly with Jia Yan's huge body. Bump. When the two collided, the monster actually had a bomb directly at the collision site. The feeling of exploding. When the two collided, Jia Yan directly used a bit of his own power. Under the current circumstances, if this monster dares to provoke me, it can only be said that it is unlucky. Phew. The battle pet is an ape-like monster. He was originally broad-chested, but his weight was completely greater than that of a mosquito. But after the collision, the monster actually fell backwards, and the chest hit the area. At this time, it became pulpy, with blood mixed with a trace of internal organs. It hit the ground with a crash. Gyutin, the owner of the war pet over there, was horrified and spoke an angry Osto language. I don't know either. Gyutin also looked extremely frightened. He was surprised. During this period of time, Big Mosquito was basically a very humane monster. He always thought that it was impossible for the opponent to hurt people like other pets, but now it seems that this is not the case at all. Daifuni, others blamed Gyutin, but Gyutin immediately set his sights on Daifuni. After all, the latter is the real master of the assassin. Go away. Daifuni herself was in a critical situation. She didn't know what happened to the mosquito at all, but she definitely knew that this was an extremely critical moment, so at this moment, she shouted angrily. After that, Gyutin only felt that an incomparable force was launched from the female body sitting on the big mosquito body, and hit him hard on the chest. Bang! Gyutin's body hit the wall of the passage hard, frightening the three-headed monster he was riding on. He quickly stepped forward and picked up his master from the ground. Like a guardian, he treated Daphne and Daphne. Jia Yan and Jia Yan roared threateningly. Jia Yan just looked at the scene over there indifferently. This was good, at least Gu Tan could put aside his relationship with him. The only pity is that I haven't gotten the benefits of today's victory yet, 4 bottles of intermediate nutrient solution. Jia Yan discovered that in the moment he was walking, the huge brainwave power had moved from the audience stage over there to the front of the exit channel for the players in a short period of time. Obviously, the other party cannot give him time to leave. He sighed deeply in his head. The only pity is that in the city, he has not fully recovered his energy, and he is not in his strongest state now. But even so, we can't sit still and wait for death. The big mosquito has long legs and is still moving forward firmly. The surrounding scenery slowly changed, and finally, the huge white body at the end of the passage blocked the road. This is a white life form with big watery eyes. If Jia Yan is an insect that seems to be a perfect combination of strength and beauty, then the life form in front of him is a beast-like combination of strength and beauty. So perfect. It has long, snow-white fur, which is beautiful at the roots and seems to be groomed frequently. Hello. The monster over there made a crisp brainwave sound. Only Jia Yan can hear this voice, and it seems that the ability to control brainwave power is much stronger than that of a giant mosquito. This level of brainwave power control made Jia Yan's heart tremble a little, and he felt something bad. Hello. Jia Yan stopped moving forward. The road ahead has been completely occupied by the opponent. Jia Yan does not dare to approach directly, otherwise he will be extremely dangerous if he is attacked by the opponent. To be honest, he doesn't want to fight. After all, his body has not fully recovered, and with the strength of the opponent, it seems that even if his body fully recovers, he is not the kind of opponent that can be easily defeated. At the feet of the white monster opposite, there were 2 very familiar monsters standing. Jia Yanfu's eyes froze. The 2 monsters looked like rats on the earth. Jia Yan discovered at a glance that one of them was the so-called robber that he had defeated near the breeding farm some time ago. It seems that guy is not a robber at all. Jia Yan smiled bitterly in his heart. This was because he didn't understand this planet too well. After competing with so many battle pets in the past few days, he discovered the rat monster's combat effectiveness by. Those huge battle pets should be more powerful. He should have thought long ago that the other party couldn't be a Taoist hijacker. Sure enough, now carrying such a powerful existence came to him. I just don't know what the other party's identity is. That white life form is still wrapped in a faint brainwave power, which makes it impossible for others to see its appearance clearly. Except for Jia Yan, a being with equally powerful brainwave power, even Daphne seems to be unable to see it. See how the other person looks. Click. Click click click. After saying hello, suddenly, the huge white figure opposite him moved his feet, moved his 4 hooves, and walked step by step in the direction of Jia Yan. Sir, you are very powerful. I haven't encountered such a powerful stranger in a long time. Although I really want to fight you now, I can't disobey my father's order, so if you are willing to be my father's guest, if so, we don't have to fight. I wonder if you are willing. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 404. This pure white life form had regret in its eyes, and looked at Jia Yan as if full of expectation, vaguely expecting Jia Yan to refuse. Then we can have a fight? Sorry, I don't want to. Boom. When Jia Yan made his voice, the 6 long legs activated powerful power. Rush forward suddenly. When we meet on a narrow road, the brave one wins. The white life form in front reacted the moment Jia Yan launched it. As a powerful enemy that Jia Yan identified at first glance, how could this monster become passive after being attacked by Jia Yan for the first time? His 4 hooves moved violently, and at the same time, Jia Yan found that a brainwave force spread extremely powerfully in front of his body. Boom. The first collision between the two caused a huge shock in the entire arena. What happened? Please don't panic. The staff is looking for reasons for the shock. Please leave the venue in an orderly manner. The battle arena emitted the noises and screams of countless life forms, and the staff tried their best to maintain order. However, the explosion-like loud noises constantly coming from the passage also made them unable to react, and they did not even know what was happening. The only thing we can do is try our best to appease the audience's emotions. Assassin. Gyutin had been hugged by the three-headed monster over there. Regardless of his minor injuries, he just looked at the battle outside in fear. Boom boom boom. The battle between two huge life forms completely surpassed those so-called war pets. At the first moment, Jia Yan was struck by a knife-shaped horny forefoot. The tip of the forefoot stabbed the white life form's brainwaves in front of his body. Superior. The other party couldn't help but take 2 steps back. But it still collapsed a wall on the periphery of the arena, and with the debris flying, Jia Yan regained a little bit of the feeling he had when fighting in the past. The previous impact was completely in a state exceeding the speed of sound. In such a situation, it was impossible for Daifuni to ride on the big mosquito body anymore, and Jia Yan didn't care about her thoughts at all, so her body lost its inertia during the impact. He was thrown directly high into the sky. At this moment, Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed with light. It was just a free front foot, piercing the sky like an electric shot. He still made the decision to kill Delphine. Otherwise, his secret may be exposed. Those front feet are extremely sharp. And the speed is extremely fast, even that white life form can move in an instant. There is no way to help. But I have forgotten the fighting ability of the girl Daifuni. It should not be underestimated. At this moment, her Danfan eyes were filled with brilliance. She always has. There are some backhands, but these backhands are completely different from the previous opponents of Big Mosquito, so they have always been suppressed by Big Mosquito. But that backhand can come in handy at this critical moment of life and death. Bo. In front of Daphne, a semicircular brainwave power defense suddenly appeared. The knife-shaped horn of Jia Yan's front foot pierced the semicircular defensive force. It was supposed to pierce the woman's front foot directly, but was blocked for a moment in front of the energy. At the same time, Daifuni's body turned around in the air, and she actually directly used the power of brainwaves to twist away from her previous position. The big mosquito's knife-shaped horns on its forefoot, after piercing the semicircular defense, continued to stab upward with great momentum, but the woman's body was no longer there. She was under the power of her brain waves. When activated, step by step through the air, like a fairy floating dust in the sky, she actually ran away directly into the distance. Asshole. This guy's brainwave power is actually more powerful than I knew before. Does this make her a backup all along? Jia Yanfu's eyes flickered. Daifuni was hidden too deeply. Before, her brainwave power was always judged by Big Mosquito to be the same intensity as when she was on Earth, when she could withstand her own blow. But what she didn't expect was that the root of it was there is even more powerful power. Relying on this energy, she successfully avoided Jia Yan's almost fatal final blow. Now this woman can be said to have been reborn, and she has reached a distant place very quickly. Jia Yan wanted to free his hands and pursue him, but the white life form on the opposite side obviously couldn't give him this chance. He just used his own attack to block Jia Yan. Taka, you two go catch that female. The white life form dodged Jia Yan's thrusting forefoot, and then made a clear girlish voice. When Jia Yan heard this sound, his anxiety became even more intense, and he almost avoided this life form without hesitation, and chased towards the place where Daifuni was. Boom boom boom. And that white life form suddenly aimed the 3 long horns on the top of its head at Jia Yan and stabbed directly. And during this stabbing, its 3 long horns seemed to react like a chemical reaction, and a little light arc appeared between the long horns. Without checking, Jia Yan was directly shocked by this arc. 3 long horns stabbed hard at the exoskeleton of his shoulders. Crack, crackle, crackle. The powerful current caused arcs to flash all over the mosquito's body. And the white life form over there also saw the azure color emerging rapidly from the mosquito's shoulder exoskeleton. Its attack can't even break through the blue defense of the big mosquito. Suddenly, both parties became solemn for a moment. Jia Yan understood that the life forms in front of him were no longer the easy opponents he encountered before. The white life form also understood that its special attack could not break through the opponent's defense. It had never encountered anything like this before except on its father's body. They all know that they have encountered an enemy that is difficult to deal with. Jia Yan finally no longer focused on Daifuni, but focused more on the white life form in front of him. And at this time, he directly noticed that the white life form in front of him still did not use its full strength. The reason is very simple, because it still maintains the kind of brainwave power that prevents other living beings from seeing its true face, and the ability to control brainwave power. Jia Yan asked himself that it was impossible to do it. Even Daphne's ability to control brainwave power is impossible. This shows how profound the other party's attainments in brainwave power are. Jia Yan finally became very interested. All the time. He has never encountered such a being who can compare with him purely in terms of combat power. Since the other party is causing trouble for you. So what about a fight with the opponent? Now go after Daifuni. Whether you can catch her or not is one thing. Even if he catches the chase, he won't be able to defeat this white monster. That is also a void. Buzz buzz. The big mosquito's wings vibrated, and he wanted to use his most powerful advantage, flying into the sky. The monster in front of me seems to be unable to fly. If you can fly, Jia Yan's advantages will be greatly amplified. If he on the ground has a combat effectiveness of 10, then when he is flying, he has a combat effectiveness of 10. The combat power is at least 60, a gap of more than 6 times. But the other party seems to know that if the big mosquito flies, the advantage it will gain is absolutely powerful, so right now when Jia Yan's wings are flapping, ba ba ba, a powerful brainwave force suppressed the big mosquito's body, causing its flapping wings to pause for a moment. Jia Yan also brazenly activated his brainwave power at this time. After his wings paused for a moment, the power of his brainwave began to surge. Boom boom boom. Presumably, Jia Yan's brainwave power is not on the same level as the opponent's, but his brainwave power is no less powerful than the opponent's, and may even be stronger. The collision of brainwave powers. There seemed to be an invisible round bomb appearing in the sky. The ground where the two behemoths stood was immediately shaken by a powerful brainwave clash, and then the ground where they were suddenly sank. Puff 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 puff. Countless pebbles on the ground were suspended in the sky. The pebbles on the ground were due to the influence of the brainwave power of the two, and even gravity was rewritten, resulting in this weird phenomenon. AHH. The gravel splashed onto the bodies of the fighting life forms on the other side of the passage. Some of the life forms had huge blood holes. Some of these working life forms also had strong combat capabilities. Otherwise, how could they control those life forms? The rampaging battle pet. But at this time, they were completely unable to resist the impact of these battles, and each one of them was on the verge of death under the impact of the stones and brainwave power. The three-headed monster of the Gyutan was very clever in holding the Gyutan and fled quickly. At this time, they had all fled to the edge of the battlefield, far away from the battlefield here. The assassin is so powerful. With this strength, there is absolutely no way he is a battle pet. What on earth is he? Gyutan's eyes nearly popped out of his sockets. He had also thought before that the assassin might be a war pet. A powerful monster, but I never thought that he would be so powerful. This is no longer the category of battle pets. Even ordinary monster soldiers cannot have such a strong combat power. Just look at the scene of the battle between the two sides. The destruction there is getting bigger and bigger. It is simply two powerful mechas fighting. A feeling of, yes, his interstellar civilization is a civilization famous for producing fighting mechas. Gyutin actually has a fighting mecha, but it is not as good as his own. The mecha is placed in a breeding farm and has never been driven. The battle over there is still going on. You are very powerful, a strange life form. The white life form made a faint female voice while fighting. Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed with brilliance. He knew his strength, and he had almost activated his peak strength to restore half of his energy. But the other party still seemed to be at ease. Jia Yan knows that his strength cannot be calculated in that way. It does not mean that he only has half the energy now and his combat effectiveness is only half. Losing ordinary strength only had a huge impact on his endurance, but it did not have much impact on his peak combat power for a moment. Jia Yan understood that at this time, even if his attack power was not at its peak, it was at least at its peak. It looks like 70% to 80% of the peak period. But this still can't shake the opponent's appearance. Jia Yan understands the opponent's combat effectiveness, but far more than him. But so what? Jia Yan hasn't flown yet, but once he does, his strength will skyrocket. But the opponent's fighting style made Jia Yan, a big mosquito, who had never faced such a battle before. With a feeling of eye-opening, Jia Yan knew. The other party simply suppressed him deliberately and was unable to make him fly, it could even be said. The other party may have more combat experience with flying life forms than Jia Yan imagined. The power of brainwaves cannot be compared. There is not much difference between the two sides in terms of physical strength, but in terms of combat experience. Jia Yan seems to be a long way behind the opponent. This put Jia Yan at an absolute disadvantage in actual combat situations. But only one thing. It is Jia Yan's biggest reliance. That's his blue defense. So far in the battle, Jia Yan has been attacked by the opponent's electric triangle no less than 10 times. I was also kicked several times by its 4 hooves. Jia Yan can be sure that except for the first time, the other party didn't hold back anymore, but no matter what, he couldn't be hurt. Sure enough, Azure defense is Jia Yan's biggest reliance, even when facing powerful alien life forms, it is so strong. What Jia Yan doesn't know is that if word spreads that his Azure defense can resist gravitational waves, maybe those alien civilizations will be extremely interested in his Azure defense. It can even defend against gravitational waves, and now it can naturally defend against the attacks of this white monster. Blue defense has been Jia Yan's ultimate foundation since very early on. It is foreseeable that in the future, this defensive method will definitely still be Jia Yan's strong confidence. Now facing this white monster, it is still impossible for the opponent to make a move. Yin 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 yin. Finally, the big mosquito took advantage of the thrust of one of its front legs to push the white life form away. His spread wings suddenly fluttered into the air, and then he flew towards the sky at the fastest speed. If my energy is restored to its full state, I will definitely have a fight with this monster. But now, I am not his opponent. Jia Yanfu glanced down with a faint cold light in his eyes. The white monster was already more than 100 meters away from him at this time. The big mosquito jumped more than 100 meters into the sky in an instant. Jia Yan struggled for a while, considering whether to continue attacking. I want to run. It's not that simple. The white monster below actually didn't give up when facing the flying Jia Yan. The moment he uttered the words of brainwave power, he suddenly jumped from the 3 long hairs on the top of his head. On the corner, an electric arc is emitted. Crack! A bolt of lightning appeared from above its head, and the electric arc flashed, like a bolt of lightning, flying towards the big mosquito in the sky. Jia Yan was shocked. The arc was so fast that it looked like real lightning. Without checking, the big mosquito was directly hit in the head by the arc. Pi. Strings of electric currents continued to swim through Jia Yan's body, paralyzing the mosquito's body for a moment. After that, he only saw that the white life form that was not supposed to be able to fly was like sitting on a rocket, and it was moving in the direction of him at a speed that shocked Jia Yan's heart. Coming flying. So strong. I'd better avoid the edge for now. Seeing this attack, Jia Yan felt a little weak in his heart. After all, as a combat life form, this was the first time he encountered such a powerful opponent, and it was such a comprehensive being. He was in an incomplete state at this time. After fighting for so long, his feeling of weakness emerged again. Just surrender and capture me. That white life form seems to be flying with the power of its own brain waves. Part of its speed is the result of kicking the ground with its four hooves, so it is not very flexible. But it also has that arc attack. Pi. Just as it was flying, the arc above its head suddenly flashed, ready to go. It's only a fool who lets you catch him. Get out of here. The mysterious light in Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed, and he immediately had a countermeasure. Boom. The wings suddenly fluttered up. Jia Yan activated all the power he could now use, and then used the power of his brain waves to push his body behind him, causing his body to surge forward. He actually didn't choose to run away, but did the opposite, heading towards the direction where the white monster was coming from, and crashed head-on. He has strong defense and extremely flexible skills in the sky. Facing a life form that is not born to fly, it is a correct judgment to act like this. The white monster flying up opposite and chasing after seemed to be shocked, but in the sudden change of the battle, it has no time to react at all. Both sides take the lead. They just hit each other. Boom 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 boom. The white monster had no choice but to activate the arc of light above its head just before the impact. Squeak, 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 squeak. Countless electric currents, like small snakes, swam in Jia Yan's body. Jia Yan felt that even though he had azure defense in his body, there was still a part of the electric current appearing inside his body, paralyzing his whole body and even causing some injuries to his organs. But the other party has suffered enough now. The speed at which Jia Yan collided with the opponent's body was absolutely terrifying. He estimated that the speed at which they collided instantly exceeded 15 times the speed of sound. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 405. After all, Jia Yan's slightly mature brainwave power was behind it. Under such an impact, Jia Yan himself had a blue defense, but the opponent did not have such a strong defense. He could only resist the brainwave power in front of his head. However, this resistance did not last long. The next moment the impact occurred, he was directly there. Is a rupture. Boom boom boom. The collision between the two hit the ground hard, creating a huge hole in a 20-meter-high building below. All the surrounding alien buildings were shaking, as if there was an earthquake. Fortunately, these buildings used alien construction techniques and materials, so they did not collapse. Puff puff. Under the stunned gazes of countless alien life forms watching the battle, Jia Yan's huge, dark figure emerged from the hollow of the damaged building again at extremely high speed. His figure was extremely fast, and a blurry afterimage appeared in the air. Boom 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 boom. As the wings flapped, the trees in the buildings below were blown by the strong wind driven by the wings, causing them to bend at the waist. And in the blink of an eye, the big mosquito's body almost reached an altitude of 1,000 meters. Boo boo boo. 3 or 4 electric arcs, like electromagnetic guns, struck hard into the air, but they were completely avoided by the already vigilant big mosquito. Blah blah blah. Seeing the big mosquito's body getting further and further away from his sight, Kankan saw the white life form walking out of the hole in the building. A hint of unwillingness flashed in his big watery pupils. Not long after, the city's armed defense force finally arrived at this place, but what they saw was just a pile of ruins and the man standing among the ruins. A huge white body. That's a diplomat from the biochemical country. A peace officer. They all looked at the white life form standing there with great fear. As a diplomat, Satsuma Kobe wanted to keep a low profile, but he didn't expect that it would cause such a shock. Such things cannot be concealed. In desperation, it had no choice but to reveal its body and face the aftermath. What kind of monster is this? A huge white monster. There was surprise in his eyes, as a being who came out of that super battlefield. And she is that person's daughter. She can be said to be a perfect living being with both status and strength, but she didn't expect it. In this peaceful city, when I personally took action, this monster really escaped. Sir. Are you okay? Distant lands. Several life forms seem to be going crazy, flying towards this place, among these monsters. There is even one that does not have wings at all, but its flying speed is not at all slower than the other monsters. The white life form faintly shook its white feathers. With a slight shake, the dusty traces caused by the previous battle were immediately restored. The white and flawless appearance seemed to be that she was not fighting before, but just out for fun. I'm fine. Thank you for coming to my rescue, she responded calmly using her brainwave power. The few monsters that came forward looked at the white life form, all of them were in disbelief. As an elite on the battlefield, this adult has considerable strength, but even she herself can't leave the enemy behind. This shows how powerful the enemy is. Not mentioning the people here, just talking about the big mosquito that escaped far away, he was also frightened at this time. What kind of existence is that monster? I have already shown my strength, but the opponent seems to be able to handle it with ease, and may even be hiding part of his strength. If I hadn't escaped quickly, I might have been captured. Maybe. Thinking of this, Jia Yan's heart beat wildly. Such a terrifying and powerful force was encountered by him casually. The aliens were really powerful. How could he encounter such a powerful single life on Earth? Could these alien life forms be so powerful? Jia Yan naturally thought of this question. As a person who does not understand this planet and alien life, it is normal for him to think so. But what he didn't know was that what he was thinking was completely unnecessary. If a life form as powerful as his could exist overwhelmingly, then the universe would have been different. After all, Jia Yan himself had already passed through countless opportunities and we have worked hard to reach this point today. It is impossible for other life forms, even those powerful cosmic beings, to reach this point easily. Most alien life forms are just like the ordinary city residents Jia Yan has seen these days. They are simply life forms that are not much more powerful than humans on Earth. And that guy Daifuni actually concealed such a powerful brainwave power. She must know that even if she bursts out with this power, she is far from my opponent, so she has been holding back until now. She is really looking down on her. She's gone. Jia Yan was a little depressed after being escaped by Daifuni, so at this time, he flew in the direction where Daifuni escaped. There are advanced alien buildings under his feet. Jia Yan is extremely fast. The alien life forms scream out in surprise when they see his appearance. In this city, no battle pet dares to fly. Even if there is a foolish person who flies, it is impossible for him to have such violent power as Jia Yan. The flying speed of this monster is unimaginable. The sound barrier on this planet cannot be the same as that on the Earth, but Jia Yan still broke through the speed of sound long ago. For a planet with air, there must be a limit speed at which sound can travel. The ground speed of sound on the gray star is higher than the Earth is not much different, but Jia Yan has already reached a speed of more than 10 times the speed of sound while escaping. Even many alien life forms cannot even see his figure clearly. Jia Yan has already rushed towards the sky. And pass. The woman must have turned around and couldn't be found. Jia Yan looked at the figures below who looked like Earthlings. In such a huge city, there were many Asta people who looked like Earthlings. It was impossible for him to observe them one by one. At least from a distance, there was no Daifuni. The presence. Woo 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 woo. Jia Yan keenly noticed that law enforcement aircraft pursuing him appeared one after another behind him. Forget it, she is lucky. I hope she is not stupid enough to expose me. Otherwise, I will really fight with her to death from now on. Jia Yan looked down, with a faint luster in his compound eyes. However, this matter is just talk. Jia Yan doesn't have much expectation that Daifuni will not reveal his thoughts. After all, he has taken action before. He is going to kill others and expects others not to expose him. It's simply whimsical. Under the pressure of the situation, Jia Yan didn't have much time to track down Daifuni, so he had to give up. Boom boom boom. The mosquito's body breaks the sound barrier. He made a U-turn and flew towards the outskirts of the city. This city can no longer survive. Of course he wants to leave. Just behind the body of the big mosquito escaping far away. In a small shop, a woman appears to be selecting goods, with beautiful red eyes. Looking at the giant flying creature with its head raised, his face became calm. Smile slightly. Goodbye for real this time, my master. The woman didn't wait and see for long, just looking at those life forms. While everyone was talking about the big mosquito that attracted everyone's attention, she puffed up her chest and walked towards a store marked Interstellar contact point. The two rat-like monsters were not far away. Their noses were flaring, but they sneezed strangely several times, as if they could no longer track their prey. The speed of the aircraft chasing behind him was not much slower than the flying speed of a large mosquito. Jia Yan looked a little embarrassed when he escaped. There are a total of 5 aircraft behind them. It is impossible to compete with them in speed. But I know how exaggerated the real speed of these aircraft can be. Jia Yan looked at the pursuit aircraft behind him. Each one had a unique shape. Perhaps they could not fly outside the atmosphere like real aircraft, but in contrast, the flight speed inside the planet was optimized. So it is impossible to fly much slower than Jia Yan. It's impossible for Jia Yan to get rid of them by relying on his own speed. Boom 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 boom. This is the first time Jia Yan has faced the institutional pursuit of these alien civilizations. He spread his wings and tried to use his flexibility to throw them away. Jia Yan didn't believe that the flexibility of these aircraft could catch up with him. Sure enough, just when Jia Yan came to the outside of the city and passed a giant tree that was 100 meters high, he turned around the tree flexibly. The aircraft behind him simply had no time to follow him. Puff 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 puff. At this moment, Jia Yan suddenly plunged into the vast gray and yellow trees. Tall trees became his cover. The aircraft behind them also made emergency U-turns one after another. They received no specific description of the situation, so at this time they thought that the big mosquito was just a combat life form that did something not excessive in the city. You know, with such a flying speed, the combat effectiveness cannot be weak. Adhering to the idea of not offending anyone, none of the police officers on these aircraft dared to open fire. Under such circumstances, Jia Yan unexpectedly appeared like a ghost and threw them away at once. What? This monster is actually the villain who just fought with the diplomat from the biochemical country. By the time several aircraft received the specific messages sent from above, Jia Yan was already in their sights, flying farther and farther, and finally plunged into the vast forest and disappeared. Damn it! I don't want to pursue the outside world and misunderstand the monsters from the biochemical nation and the Zerg clan. That would be asking for death. Forget it, go back. The police officers in the aircraft were no longer willing to pursue them after they were more than 100 kilometers away from the city. A city is only allowed to maintain public security within 100 kilometers. If it exceeds this range and is attacked by both warring parties, It is asking for death. So they didn't dare to continue chasing the cunning flying life form. Don't chase me anymore. Jia Yan was flying through countless gray-yellow jungles when he suddenly felt that the aircraft chasing him behind him had given up pursuit and returned directly. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. These aircraft did not deploy their weapon systems when chasing him. Although Jia Yan didn't know why, he was still lucky at this time. After all, if they all launched fire attacks, Jia Yan would have confidence in his blue defense. But he couldn't guarantee that he would recover about half of his energy. How long can I hold on? No, after a battle and escape, my energy is probably less than half left. Jia Yan helplessly felt his body. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He slowed down his speed and kept flying at high speed. That is the most energy consuming. I can't stay in that city anymore, but my energy has not been fully restored. It's just that the situation is definitely much better than before entering that city. In that city. The first point is that my body has roughly recovered about half of its strength. This strength is enough for me to exert about 70% to 80% of my previous combat effectiveness, but it is not as long-lasting. As for the second point, it is the people who passed through that city. What I saw and heard, as well as Daphne's explanation. I have mastered a lot of information about this planet and alien civilization, and I can even basically speak the language of the Asta people. If I were asked to return to the solar system now, I would not be able to do it. It's good to be able to control your own aircraft. His aircraft stayed at the outer edge of the Earth's atmosphere. He couldn't understand the Asta people's language before, so he couldn't study anything. Now it's completely different. Thinking of these advantages, Jia Yan finally felt a little satisfied. Although De Funi might reveal his information, it was not a big deal to him. Jia Yan almost has a belief in his own position. That was the white monster in the city before. She might be a unique existence. After some escaping, Jia Yan sorted out his thoughts in his mind. The other party has those rat monsters as its subordinates. What's more, Jia Yan didn't see it before. This monster has any intention of fighting in a battlefield with so many alien life forms, and even causing death and injury. Worry, that kind of situation can only mean that the other party actually has a special status. Jia Yan couldn't defeat her, so there was a reason. What's more, if he can regain his full strength, it's not certain who will win and who will lose. So, if this white life form can be regarded as a relatively powerful existence in this warring planet, then Jia Yan feels that his combat power is not low. Having found his position, Jia Yan has more confidence in his chances of survival in the future. Ahead are endless gray-yellow trees, and Jia Yan is flying quickly among the trees. Now that Daphne is gone, he feels that he can do more things. Speaking of that woman by his side, it makes him a little bit unable to let go. His original intention is to control her actions and learn from Osto. He had received help with human language and other matters, thus ensuring his safety, but now it seems that he has put the cart before the horse. My original intention is to return to Earth after recovering my strength and even getting the next mutation. Why stay in the city if I don't want to stay anywhere? While Jia Yan was flying forward, he had other thoughts. On Earth, he had always obtained those opportunities for mutation in the wild and other places, so at this time he had obtained enough information in that city, and he had completely no more searching for alien cities to enter. But I must not go back to the direction I came out from before. According to my understanding during this period, that place is the so-called war zone. When I go there, I am asking for trouble, so I should look in other directions at this time. Let's see if we find anything. Jia Yan estimated his own energy. If he relied on this energy, he could survive a month or two without eating. However, the longer the time went on, the weaker his body would become, so he could not really wait until after a month or two. Then make the next step. So, I will walk around in most places on this planet within 20 days. If I can find something that suits my energy, or something else, I will not venture to those cities. But within 20 days, I won't gain anything. If so, just after 20 days, be more adventurous, find another city to enter, and find a way to get some nutrient solution. At least on this planet, the only thing Jia Yan knows that can help him now is the so-called nutrient solution of these alien life forms. When there is really no other way, Jia Yan can only find another city to enter. According to his recent from my observations during this period, on this planet, it seems that the connection between cities and cities is not very close. So it was still possible for him to go to another city that was relatively close and pretend to be a battle pet again to find a way to get some nutrient solution. Of course, that's just a last resort. Now it depends on whether Jia Yan can think of other solutions within 20 days. I have a huge problem now. This problem has appeared a long time ago, but I have always ignored it or dealt with it. Now, I can't face this problem. Jia Yan's flying speed slowed down. At the same time, the sparkle in his eyes slowly turned into a look of contemplation. Surrounded by gray-yellow trees, his body at this time, among the countless ancient trees that are 1 to 200 meters high, does not appear to be so huge and terrifying. The gray-yellow star hanging overhead slowly descended. Night is coming. After flying for more than 1,500 kilometers in one breath, Jia Yan finally stopped steadily under a towering tree more than 250 meters high. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 406. The life forms pursuing from behind are probably not going to pursue them anymore. Jia Yan discovered that there are many high-tech equipments on this planet. Perhaps it is also because of the constraints and interference from all parties that there is no strong intelligence control like the people on Earth. After all, it is impossible for both warring parties to allow technological equipment to detect their actions. This also facilitated the movements of Big Mosquito. He felt that his safety should now be guaranteed to a certain extent. So he stopped under this tree. He now wants to figure out a problem that has troubled him for a long time. Jia Yan looked at the ground under his feet. In this forest, because there were so many giant trees growing into the sky, even the starlight in the sky was mostly blocked. But in the distant sky, there is still a sun that has not set yet, hanging there, illuminating the ground tenaciously. It was another brown dwarf in the Shoals star binary system. It looked like a star, but it was somewhere between a star and a gas planet. It was very strange. Jia Yan looked at the brown dwarf star and slowly lowered his body. A question kept swirling in his head. What mutations have I relied on all this time? In other words, what will be my definition of mutations and food positioning in the future? This is the most basic question. Jia Yan has thought about it many times before, but every time he just left it alone. Perhaps to put it harshly, he just went with the flow. But when things have reached this point, if he doesn't solve this problem clearly, his future direction will become confusing. Jia Yan knew that it was not that he did not pay attention to this problem in the past, but his living conditions had not been that good all along. As a result, when he could mutate, he mutated directly without any hesitation or too many thoughts. But now, his body has reached an almost extreme state, even though Jia Yan understands that the road ahead is still very broad. But if he is still the same as before, if he doesn't even know the principle of his own mutation and what he relies on to mutate, then how can he continue to mutate? The only thing I could know before was that I had been relying on some unique minerals and other things to mutate. Without those minerals, it would be impossible for me to mutate. But what are those unique minerals? Think about it. First of all, there are the medicines of the Siberian wild tigers. Although these medicines don't look like minerals, their essence is from the underground world. That air, and the air in the underground world, comes from the mysterious machine of the Asta people. From what I see now, that mysterious machine is a machine for refining azure substances. In fact, many things just slowly unravel. Then you can get the true essence. This is what Jia Yan is like now. He slowly combined his mutations with the substances and other things he obtained. As a result, he found that his mutations always have something to do with those powerful minerals. Close relationship. The azure substance is related to my constant mutation. Even the previous one was because of the azure substance. If it weren't for the azure substance, I wouldn't be as powerful as I am now. But that's not an explanation. My body can only absorb top-level minerals related to the azure substance. For example, during the subsequent mutation on Neptune, I did not rely on the azure substance, but the Asta aircraft. I got the mutation. So it can be seen that my body is not limited to things related to azure matter at all. Jia Yan was lying on the ground, his compound eyes had a luster of exploration, and he slowly came to a conclusion about everything. But the most basic problem has still not been solved. That is, where will he locate the source of food and mutation next? It seemed to be minerals, but Jia Yan always felt that something was wrong. No. It's not minerals. Suddenly, Jia Yan thought of a possibility. Although the things I swallowed are all minerals, they are all coincidences. In fact, these things have one biggest similarity, that is, they contain extremely high energy. Just like me before, those nutrients that are swallowed are extremely high in energy and nutrients, so they can restore my energy. Jia Yanfu finally had light in his eyes, parting through the clouds and seeing the blue sky. Now that he had sorted out all the past, he discovered that his real mutations were not minerals at all, but those with powerful energy. Just things. As for why there were more minerals in the past, it is because minerals are the easiest for him to absorb and utilize. This is a physical problem, but it does not limit him to only use minerals in the future. That's right. What I can really use should be materials with extremely high energy. Of course, this energy cannot be used casually. Stars are extremely powerful energy materials in the starry sky, but it is impossible for me to jump in. That is court death. Jia Yan finally figured it out. If it were just energy and matter, there would actually be quite a lot. However, it was not that easy to find the right one for him. Jia Yan knew his body, and even though he could successfully mutate it in the past, in reality, yes, it's quite picky. Just like the food Gyutin gave him for his battle pets, most of them had relatively high energy, but Jia Yan couldn't adapt to and digest anything other than nutritional Y. Then I will be looking for things with powerful energy in the future, and I estimate that under the current circumstances, I will be more able to adapt to those artificially synthesized energy substances, just like those I have been using before, except for the azure substance. Everything else is artificially made, and these things may be more adaptable to me. It was as if Jia Yan had discovered his biggest secret. He spent the whole night conceiving a blueprint for the future. The nights on this planet are extremely long. Fortunately, there are not many dangers in the wild forest. At least for Jia Yan, the dangers here are not a problem at all. So when he came one night, he had a relatively peaceful time. The morning light dews slightly, and the beautiful gray-yellow sunshine appears in the sky. Gray-yellow has the beauty of gray-yellow. The main star of Shoal's star has a charm different from that of the sun as a star. Her light shines on the entire galaxy, just like the sun of the solar system. Long time on this planet. Jia Yan found that he was gradually getting used to the gray and yellow color. Looking at the slowly rising round of flames in the distant horizon, Jia Yan was impressed by his own adaptability. With a wry smile, since his rebirth, Jia Yan found that his ability to adapt was completely beyond his expectations. He didn't know whether he should be happy because of this performance. It's really no different from a monster. Essentially, Jia Yan still doesn't want to really become a monster. But having strong vitality and fighting power definitely requires sacrifice, and what Jia Yan paid for may be the gradual loss of his true nature as a human being. Jia Yan looked at the distant star. After it completely reflected its light on the ground, the entire forest became a gray-yellow light gold color. Jia Yan just stood up with his own body. Feeling emotional is something you only do when you are free and elegant. After feeling emotional, you still have to work hard on things that you should work hard on, and those who should live on still have to live on. Jia Yan is not open-minded, but he has lived in life and death for so long and has understood the truth, unless he wants to die. Otherwise, he would have to keep most of his sentimentality in his heart. Boom 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 boom. Jia Yan took off. It doesn't seem like a good thing to make too much noise every time you fly. Can I try some methods? Jia Yan was a little dissatisfied with the overwhelming noise every time he flew. Although this was a huge increase in his momentum, it was too much to be earth-shattering every time. Try it whenever you think of it. Now he has similar problems. It's just a trivial matter. Bo. The brainwave power spreads. Jia Yan's brainwave power, which has been guided by Daifuni for so long, now has a more comprehensive power. Perhaps because of the need to stabilize Jia Yan's mentality, Daifuni is in this situation. In the middle of the month, it can be said that he has come up with a lot of real things. The result is that Jia Yan's current way of using brainwave power and sea control ability have greatly increased. So when used at this time, it can directly wrap his own huge body. Ba ba ba. The power of brainwaves surrounded his body. Jia Yan found that the sound of his flight was indeed inaudible to the outside world, but the result was that he had a huge sound within the range wrapped by the power of brain waves. Is resounding. This voice is not small. It seems that wrapping the power of brain waves in this way can make the sounds caused by the outside world unable to be easily detected, and even the strong winds caused by flying are concealed. However, the price paid for this is the continuous consumption of my brain wave power, and the noise is unbearable. Jia Yan tried it and found that his brainwave power could maintain such a silent flight for about 3 hours. After 3 hours, excessive consumption of brainwave power would affect his physical condition. Moreover, this flying method seemed to affect the speed to a certain extent, so Jia Yan put away this flying method after trying it for a while. Only use this flying method when necessary. Jia Yan began to wander aimlessly along the area where the forest was. He doesn't really want to find something useful to him so easily. After all, those things with powerful energy are not just cabbages on the roadside. You can just look for them and come across them. But at this time, Jia Yan is truly familiar with this planet. For him, this is the time to truly adventure alone on a strange planet. In the past, although Daifuni's combat power was much weaker than others, but in terms of knowledge, Jia Yan is far behind. Sometimes, a little bit of knowledge can save your life. Jia Yan still lacks knowledge, so at this time, he can only rely on his own caution. Not long after, Jia Yan finally walked along the forest and reached the edge of the vast forest. It turns out that this forest also has boundaries. I thought there wasn't one. Jia Yan looked ahead at the desert-like place with a hint of emotion. Jia Yan spent almost all his time on this planet in the forest. Even the city he was in before was also in an extremely vast forest. Such a situation made Jia Yan once think that the planet is completely covered by the gray-yellow forest in front of you. If that is the case, this level of greening is quite powerful. Fortunately, the real situation was not like this. Jia Yan came to the front of a vast desert. If I remember correctly, this desert is located in the equatorial region of the planet and reaches all the way to the North Pole. Jia Yan remembered the geographical information he had seen in that city. After all, while being a battle pet, Jia Yan still did not give up the exploration of this planet, so he still learned a lot about this planet. The city I was in before was named Planet 6 among the 7 cities on this planet. This was obviously a name given by the Asta people to save trouble. It is said that there are certain rules for naming cities, along the equator. Nearby, 7 cities are arranged in a straight line. Now that I have left city number 6 over there, I just don't know which one I will approach next. Although Jia Yan's goal is not to enter the city, he still wants to get close to a city of alien life forms. If he wants to obtain the energy source of those artificial creations, that is only through contact with those living beings. Huh? Over there. Just as Jia Yan continued to think about the next idea, his compound eyes suddenly lit up, as if he had discovered something. It turned out that in front of Jia Yan's flying body, there were areas like small towns that were not so vast. Although there are several tens of meters high buildings in that area, they are completely dwarfed by the city number 6 we saw before. And the area there is only about 3 kilometers, which is really a big gap compared to the hundreds of kilometers in number 6 city. It can't be a city, because it's impossible for an official city to be so small. But if it's not a city, what on earth is it? Jia Yan suddenly became interested. After all, he knew that those life forms in city number 6 in the impression. It is extremely dangerous to leave the city. You may encounter soldiers from both sides of the war, and if you are killed, your death will be in vain. He wrapped his brainwave power around his body and used the brainwave power he had just researched. It just worked. Jia Yan flew in the direction of the city quietly, trying not to make any noise. Close to the periphery of the forest, there are still a few extremely huge trees. When Jia Yan slowly flew here, he arrived under these trees and quietly looked at the buildings over there under the cover of the huge gray and yellow trees. This place is really extremely hidden, and it happens to be close to the edge of the desert. Jia Yan estimates that the detectors in the sky are unable to detect the entire planet due to the war, so this place happens to be a blind spot in the sight. Therefore, the living beings who established this place have no idea what their intentions are. Could it be some army or similar organization? Jia Yan thought for a while. But looking at it, Jia Yan found that it didn't look like it. After all, if it was some official organization or the military, he would have been discovered long ago even if he had been running around in the forest. After all, there are so many people on this planet. Technology is not comparable to Earth's technology. Even if there are shields from both warring parties, it is impossible for him to be so close to some official buildings that he cannot be discovered. While Jia Yan was observing over there, some of the life forms he had seen in city number 6 were walking back and forth among these buildings. The building complex over there is actually not too small in scale. If it were placed on the earth, it would be at least the level of a county town. It is still possible for more than 10 or 200,000 people to live there. So when Jia Yan saw those alien life forms, he was not surprised, but he did not expect that those aliens seemed to be even more barren than the alien life forms he saw in the slums of city number 6. A few frog-like life forms, wearing tattered and extremely old clothes, and those Asta people who look like earthlings, it becomes clearer. Even if they are placed on the earth, they looks like a poor person. The team of life forms closest to Jia Yan was a team of 12 people. They held some steel products similar to guns in their hands and walked towards Jia Yan's direction. Jia Yan directly made his body more hidden. After seeing that white life form the day before yesterday, which possesses the kind of brainwave power that prevents others from discovering the true color of his body, Jia Yan also had a little understanding in his heart. Although he could not be like that white life form, making it impossible for other living beings to observe him, after all, it definitely requires some special learning, but he can still simply use his brainwave power to slightly shield the sight of other living beings. In fact, this is not that he really has special powers, but that brainwave power is actually transmitted in the form of brain waves. What Jia Yan has to do is to imitate that white life form, release his brainwave power in the air, and interfere with the life form that is far different from his own brainwave power. As expected, not many of the group of life forms over there paid attention to the big mosquito. Even if some people looked at the giant tree here, their eyes were still on Jia Yan's figure hidden under the tree. He moved away in confusion. Not bad. Although I will probably be discovered if I am too obvious, but in this case, this trick is very useful. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 407. Jia Yan knew his situation. He has only superficially mastered this method of using brain waves to deceive others. If he wants to truly master it, he probably still has to learn the formal method. However, such a simple simulation is enough for him to face those who seem to have insufficient brainwave power. Maybe a powerful life form. Hurry. The informant is here to report. It is said that the government troops will conduct a large-scale sweep in our area recently. We must harvest all the mature Tonigans before they come over. Hurry. The leader of the team of 12 life forms was an Asta man. There was a gloomy look on his thin cheeks. He directed the life forms behind him to run forward quickly. Jia Yan looked at the people over there, and behind them, he saw a 10-meter-sized creature similar to himself. It must be a kind of war pet. These people ran to the side of the jungle. Jia Yan looked over and saw a continuous stretch of strange vegetation. At first glance, this vegetation seemed to be an ordinary gray-yellow vegetation. However, these people were so concerned that Jia Yan couldn't help but feel, after taking a closer look, I was surprised to find that they were yellow and green plants. This was the first time Jia Yan saw green plants on this planet, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity. But the alien life forms over there don't have the same mentality as him. In their opinion, this kind of yellow and green vegetation may be the biggest treasure in the world. Each tree is about 1 meter high. After a few people arrived here, they took out a sickle-like thing from their waists and quickly harvested it. What kind of plant is this? Jia Yan looked at the harvest over there and naturally knew that this vegetation was definitely not a simple vegetation. So there was a hint of doubt on his face. This feeling did not last long. When another team of people came over, Jia Yan used his brainwave power to hide his body even more. He heard the people on the other side whispering to each other. From these words, I roughly understand what this kind of thing belongs to. Unexpectedly. This kind of vegetation is a forbidden drug for alien life forms. And it is a forbidden drug that combines spirit and energy. Jia Yan listened to the words over there. His compound eyes lit up. He even heard it. This banned drug is a consistent formula for making nutrient solutions. However, when this drug is planted, it will be more lethal to the surrounding vegetation, so a piece of this vegetation is planted. This area will then be barren of vegetation for decades. Therefore, the officials of this planet cannot sit back and watch such rampant planting continue. Plus this vegetation. It's like the drugs on Earth have a spiritual stimulating effect on almost all living things, so much so that they have been directly restricted and become banned drugs. Only certain special institutions and companies authorized by the government can carry out cultivation. It seems that this is the same existence as the so-called drugs. It's just that cultivating drugs can lead to such misery. It's really weird. Jia Yan looked at the figures in the distance who moved very fast, and replied. A strange light flashed in his eyes. He intended to test whether this kind of vegetation had powerful energy, but he felt that his body organs were weak. I don't have much desire to absorb it, so I'm not interested in this matter at this time. Just give it up. After all, it's not something that can be absorbed by a large mosquito with all its energy. Since he seems to have no desire to absorb the vegetation that is close at hand. That means that either the energy of this kind of vegetation is not enough for the big mosquito to use, or this kind of vegetation is not suitable for him. No matter what, Jia Yan has no need to expose himself. Of course, if this kind of thing is useful to you, then things will be different. As Jia Yan's thoughts turned, the harvest team over there had expanded to 40 or 50 people. Jia Yan saw that there were still a lot of people in the small towns over there. It was certain that even if the population of the city did not reach 10, At the level of several 100,000, it must have a huge scale, at least tens of thousands of life forms. However, the life forms in this small town are also busy and full of enthusiasm. When Jia Yan watched, they were constantly doing something. When Jia Yan saw that the harvest here was almost done, he looked over with his compound eyes. My eyes almost popped out of my eyes. Several huge buildings over there, dozens of meters high, were like chimneys, slowly falling down. These buildings are definitely not made of ordinary building materials, and they are not even made of ordinary metal. At least they are all powerful metals, so they can tilt and fall so easily. Jia Yan saw that under his attention, the buildings over there had all changed their shapes and turned into huge movable vehicles. Then, under his attention, those huge buildings tens of meters tall, the vehicle started moving, with a mighty force behind it, and started moving toward the front. The large group of people harvesting here are also very fast. After finishing the harvest, they get on a few cars running on wheels and chase the large group of people. In less than half an hour, the town that could accommodate tens of thousands of people turned into a huge motorcade and drove away under Jia Yan's gaze. Jia Yan was really stunned. It is indeed a high-tech planet. Even though it looks like a refugee, the technology it possesses is beyond the imagination of people on Earth. Jia Yan looked at the smoke and dust in the distance, his compound eyes full of shock. However, after the shock, his body suddenly started to move. How could Jia Yan let go of such a good opportunity to contact a living body so easily? If possible, he would not want to deal with the life forms in the city. These guys who did not seem to be official forces were a good choice. As for safety, Jia Yan doesn't think that those people can pose a threat to him just by owning a few deformable houses. You know, Jia Yan has fought against cannons of tens of meters in length before, and he can directly destroy the opponent, not to mention these, which may not look like deformed houses with the height of cannons. Besides, those may just be some residential settings, and they may not have anything to do with combat at all. Not long after Jia Yanfei stood up, he discovered that there was a huge movement in front of him. The sound of strong artillery fire kept coming from the front. This is... He was suddenly startled, and quickly used his brainwave power to wrap up his figure more covertly. At the same time, his body descended into the surroundings of the gray-yellow vegetation. There was indeed a firefight over there. Jia Yan didn't dare to get close. Look at it from a distance. I saw that the huge convoy ahead was besieged by dozens of aircraft with a length of more than 20 meters. Those aircraft all have the gray-yellow star police paint. After all, Jia Yan has been here for a long time. So I am very familiar with that kind of police symbol. Just as Jia Yan expected, the convoy group over there. Although they have an extremely large fleet of vehicles, there is still no way to resist the police aircraft flying in the sky. On those huge mutant vehicles, there are some artillery fires that don't seem to have much lethality. Launch to the top of your head. The fire light emitted by the police aircraft was the fiery red color that Jia Yan was very familiar with. Jia Yan saw this color, which was a shining luster in his compound eyes. After all, this kind of life and death struggle for a long time is now seen again. To say there was no reaction would be a lie. But the red light from the aircraft over there doesn't seem to be as intense as the red light encountered in the magnificent buildings on Earth. Boom 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 boom. During the sensation, the vehicles transformed by those buildings were damaged one by one. Even a huge vehicle tens of meters long was cut off in two parts, and the ground was filled with flames. The counterattacks of those vehicles were not very powerful. Several of them seemed to be the main defense, but the weapons they fired were a dim gray light with obvious weakness, and they looked even better than Jia Yan had before. The red light emitted from the top of the head of the metal monster I experienced was even weaker. How could such an attack be able to deal with opponents whose ships were no less powerful than Daphne's original aircraft? The result is destined. Jia Yan had no intention of going directly to help, but the aircraft on the other side seemed to be chasing a fleeing vehicle and moved in his direction. No, I'd better retreat as far away as possible. Jia Yan's body was huge, but he was still able to leave quietly under the cover of the jungle. But after all, the other party is an aircraft with detection capabilities. The closer it is to the Mosquito, the more obvious the life characteristics on Jia Yan's body are. Suddenly, Jia Yan saw the aircraft chasing the vehicle over there, flying suddenly towards Jia Yan's direction. Boom boom boom. Just when the opponent was about to approach, Jia Yan flapped his wings decisively. He knew that he had been discovered. If he didn't leave now, when all the aircraft would react later, it would not be a question of whether he could leave, but a question of whether he could leave or not. The giant mosquito body suddenly appeared, causing the battlefield over there to pause for a moment. After all, when they suddenly see such a strange and powerful life form appear, both sides will be a little surprised. But this pause is only for a moment. On this planet with so many war pets, I suddenly see a life form that may belong to a war pet. Naturally, these intelligent beings cannot have any other thoughts besides the initial shock. But the big mosquito over there obviously didn't want to be content unless it surprised them a little bit. Jia Yan's flight speed, accelerated in an instant, exceeded the speed of sound. The aircraft seemed not to have thought that the monster in the front room could actually accelerate to such an extent. In a moment of trance, the big mosquito suddenly flew a kilometer away. Jia Yan's speed is still increasing. But not long after, the aircraft behind also picked up speed. Whoosh whoosh. The opponent's speed and acceleration ability are not inferior to the big mosquito, and there is even a certain amount of energy left. Jia Yan naturally knew that the opponent's flying ability was better than his own. But after several encounters with these police aircraft here, Jia Yan also discovered one of the opponent's biggest weaknesses, or should not be said to be a weakness, but rather some of the opponent's concerns. That is why they may suspect that Jia Yan is that kind of powerful fighting life form. After all, having reached such a powerful life form, according to the information Jia Yan has recently understood, he will be directly recruited by both warring parties to become a member of the war. In fact, the life forms that appear on this planet, even some alien civilized life forms, unless they have a unique identity. Otherwise, you have to be prepared to be called upon at any time. Just like a being like Jia Yan, he must be prepared to be recruited as a soldier by both warring parties. Even those battle pets are better than those on the battlefield. Some powerful battle pets appeared. If they are powerful to a certain extent or have relatively unique abilities, they will be candidates for forced recruitment by the armies of both sides. As for Jia Yan, an aircraft with flying ability capable of competing with these police aircraft in a short period of time, they are more likely to be members of the military on either side. Therefore, the aircraft following behind did not dare to attack. But as an existence that assists both sides in the war in managing the security of this planet, it was impossible for them not to pursue the case, so they had no choice but to pursue while pursuing the two warring parties. Issue a program to request identification and look at the flying life form you are chasing ahead. Are they members of the military? What on earth is that monster? It's so powerful, but it's not from the military. It didn't take long for the peace officers in the aircraft to get the answer. This answer surprised them all slightly. After all, they were on this planet. It is basically impossible for a powerful life form to appear outside. After all, this planet is not a traditional life planet. If we take it seriously, it is actually a war planet. Even the vegetation is a combination of animals and plants planted by the Asta people when they discovered the mines on this planet hundreds of years ago. Mutant life. It is impossible for a powerful life form to suddenly appear on such a planet with no natives, and it is such a powerful life form. How can they not be surprised? Try to fire. But don't use the strongest firepower. There was naturally a commander in the aircraft. At this time, the life form like the commander issued the order. He has a calm mind and has more thoughts than other colleagues. If this was a life form secretly developed by some aspect, it would be bad to shoot it down. As the nominal defenders of security on this planet, these peace officers are helpless. In fact, their authority is not great. On this warring planet, most alien life forms are existences that are not doing well on their own planet. Even they, the police officers, mostly look like this. The real native life should probably be the oldest immigrants who have developed on this planet for several generations, but these exist very rarely. Most of the people who live on this planet want to make a fortune here. Other civilized figures. It's just that on this desolate planet, there aren't many opportunities to really make a fortune, so most of the life forms who spent all their belongings to come to this place ended up in a state where they couldn't leave, and even had the chance to leave at any time. Possibility of being warned by the military. But it's not true that you can't make a fortune in this place. Just like the previous convoy, what they did was to do some business without capital, grow interstellar drugs, and then sell them to other planets through special channels. Such things can't be done here. It can be said that they are everywhere on the planet. Some people can earn large sums of gold and silver after working for a period of time, and then leave this war-torn planet and return to their hometown. Most of the time, their police officers actually deal with these characters. It's just that some large-scale drug lords still have a quarrelsome relationship with both warring parties. Naturally, they have no reason to control them. So we just strangled these small beggar-like organizations. I just didn't expect that during this strangulation, I would encounter such a weird flying life form. Ba ba ba. Several red rays of light suddenly shot out from the aircraft behind. This kind of light is not very powerful, but its speed is definitely faster than the red light emitted by those earth metal monsters that Jia Yan has seen before. After all, the metal monsters are using technology from hundreds of years ago. The current technology, even for these police officers who belong to the fringe forces of the Asta people, cannot be worse than the technology from hundreds of years ago, right? Jia Yan didn't notice for a moment, and the light from behind was sprayed behind him. Phew! Phew! A continuous sound of hitting sounded. What? The disbelieving voices of the police officers sounded from the aircraft behind them. The red light they emit, even if it is only compressed in power, is at least not something that ordinary battle pets can resist. Find bookstore. But the monster in front of them didn't even react at all. It seemed that these red rays of light couldn't even penetrate the opponent's skin. Their attacks this time were only at the level of ordinary metal monsters. Jia Yan had become immune to attacks from metal monsters a long time ago, and now he was still using attacks of this level to hit him. He simply underestimated his defense. In the database, increase the threat level of this monster. Not only does it fly fast, its defense is also unexpectedly powerful. Next, increase the emission energy by 1 level. No. Increase it by 3 levels in one breath. No organization has come forward to claim the other party yet. Obviously this is a life form that is illegally researched. We have all our strength to shoot it. While the police officer was speaking, there was a strong murderous intent in the air. Such a powerful life form has exceeded their bottom line, and there is no organization to contact and come to claim the ownership of this monster. He has the right to determine that this monster belongs to that kind of illegal life form. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 408. A new volume begins. Thanks to the book friends who tipped and voted for me. Special thanks to book friend. Come and take a look. 1314159421 1888 tips, and book friend Dance in the Wind Chime for 1888 tips. Thank you. I will try to add more updates in the next 2 days to report back to you all. Amid the pursuit of the aircraft, the head of the sheriff's department was greatly disturbed. This life form was either researched by a truly illegal organization, or it was a monster cultivated by formal organizations through some informal methods. Those methods are generally not in compliance with interstellar laws, so they dare not come claim it. So you can completely kill this monster at this time. At the same time, Jia Yan in front also appeared in anger because of the attack of the aircraft. Do you think I dare not fight back? I just want to try to see if such an aircraft has the energy source I need. Jia Yanfu also had a flash of killing intent in his eyes. Since the other party is chasing so urgently, he doesn't care so much. At worst, he will move more covertly in the future. Whirring. Suddenly, the big mosquito body accelerated to a new level. Turn around and attack the aircraft behind you. The aircraft behind it also had a brighter red light emerging from a launch tube on the top. When the two face each other, they will collide. He actually dared to charge over, he was just looking for death. In the aircraft, when the police officers over there saw Jia Yan's attacking behavior, they all became furious, as if they were being looked down upon by a giant mosquito. Naturally, Jia Yan didn't look down on them, but treated them like this because he valued them very much. His impact speed instantly increased to the limit that he can now exert. Boom. Jia Yan himself no longer knows what his current speed is. It is true that at this time, his energy strength has dropped to about half of what it was before. But after leaving the Earth, he had learned a lot about how to use brainwave power from Daifuni, so at this time, he was different from when he was on Earth. How much weaker it is impossible to say. He has always been so low-key on this planet. That was only Jia Yan's first contact with alien life, and with energy limitations, he naturally did not dare to use his full strength to fight. But now that we have reached the current situation, the big mosquito cannot continue to keep a low profile. Since there is no way to escape, then let's fight. The body of the big mosquito is wrapped in the power of brain waves. Attack the police aircraft ahead at top speed. Come. There are fierce flames in the compound eyes of the big mosquito. This flame has been suppressed for a long time recently. At this moment, it seemed like it burst out in one breath, burning more vigorously. War. This is fighting spirit. So fast. A group of peace officers in the aircraft discovered the speed of the giant mosquito. It suddenly became beyond their imagination. 15 times the speed of sound. Definitely more than 18 times the speed of sound. Boom. The moment the two came into contact, the police officers in the aircraft only felt the speed of the monster in front of them. In an instant, the number of people here actually increased a lot. It's time for the police officer in charge of the fire control operation to press the fire button. The big mosquito has actually disappeared where it was. They were completely unable to capture the flying monster so close at hand. What follows is the violent collision between the two. The police officers in the aircraft suddenly felt their bodies shaking. The entire aircraft was completely out of control at this time. It only collided with the big mosquito, which put their aircraft at an incredible disadvantage. If you look from the outside, you can see the battle situation. The moment Jia Yan collided, just suddenly increase his flying speed. Then, the aircraft collided hard with each other within 1/100th of a second. The ripples flashed, and there seemed to be a flashing circle in the air. This was a shock wave. At this moment, Jia Yan used his front feet to suddenly stab the front end of the police aircraft. However, the opponent's steel was obviously a new technology. He could only use his front feet to penetrate less than 20 centimeters from the surface, and was blocked by the defense layer. But Jia Yan was not surprised at all. While passing by, unlike the aircraft that was unbalanced at that moment, Jia Yan's body did not deviate in any way at this time. Still stable and fast. This is the power of true flying life forms. It is also the art of combat and flying that Jia Yan has honed in so many battles, big and small, through wind and rain. Boom boom boom. The air around him seemed to form a huge wall of resistance, blocking Jia Yan's progress. But at this time, Jia Yan, still flying steadily and quickly, turned around and headed towards the rear of the police aircraft, which was still in an unbalanced state and was adjusting itself. There was a sparkle in his compound eyes. The body is like a streamlined swimming fish, but this huge swimming fish does not swim in the water, but in the air, or even in space. Fish in the air. Instigate. Jia Yan's body continued to shuttle and came to the rear of the police aircraft. In front of the body, the sharp knife-shaped horns of the forefoot cut through the air. At this time, under the reflection of the gray-yellow shoal star, they had an inexplicable, strange, yet chilling demeanor. When he is like a huge bow and arrow. It hit the rear of the aircraft. This time, due to the forward distance bonus, the damage caused was more than that. Phew. When the several police officers in the aircraft's crew area heard the sounds from behind the aircraft, they all showed expressions of disbelief. Their bodies were shaking wildly, which was caused by the aircraft becoming more unbalanced and losing its functions. How is it possible? That monster actually broke through our defense, several police officers exclaimed. How could they not exclaim? No matter how old this aircraft is, it is still an official and authentic combat model. How could it be so easily defeated by a monster? Damn it! Where on earth did they develop such a terrifying life form? It's like a military super soldier. The aircraft was still vibrating, and the big mosquito that was resisting behind it flashed its compound eyes and struck hard with its other knife-shaped horn on its front foot. Bang! A huge circular hole once again appeared on the surface of the aircraft. One front foot hooks the opponent, and the other keeps attacking. In fact, Jia Yan had a strategy from the beginning. After all, he had fought against similar things before. He could not charge towards the opponent headlessly with only passion like before. Instead, he deliberately missed the opponent's figure before, then returned and launched an attack from behind the aircraft. Because there is no gun port at the rear of this aircraft. Urgent request for support. Urgent request for support. We encounter an inexplicable powerful creature that a single team cannot defeat. Please ask for support. Jia Yan was kneeling above the aircraft, and he faintly heard an urgent cry for help coming from inside. There was a cruel smile in my heart. Please ask for help, but it's hard to say whether they can save you. Thinking of this, Jia Yan's attack became even more fierce. Finally, after a bang, the propeller behind the aircraft seemed to have been pierced by the sharp front legs of the giant mosquito, and a small explosion sounded in the aircraft. Boom boom boom. There was an indifferent luster in Jia Yanfu's eyes. He immediately jumped up. His body made an adjustment while flying, and he looked back. The battle to escape from the aircraft has reached the edge of the desert, more than 50 kilometers away. The desert scenery in the distance cannot even be seen clearly at low altitude. However, several police aircraft over there still appeared in Jia Yan's sight, and one was even flying slowly towards the side. Boom boom boom. Not long after, Big Mosquito heard a violent impact sound from below his body. The aircraft that was almost half destroyed by him suddenly hit the ground. After all, its flight system had been destroyed by Jia Yan from behind, and even the backup flight system had no time to react. At such a high speed, even if the aircraft intelligence brain no matter how fast you react, it's impossible to react. The result is naturally extremely miserable. The machine crashed and everyone died. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 409. Please subscribe. A sunken hole with a diameter of more than 100 meters appeared on the ground, and all the surrounding trees were destroyed. The impact was close to 20 times the speed of sound. Even if this aircraft was stronger than the previous aircraft of Delphine, it would not be able to fall without a trace of damage at a height of 1,000 meters. More importantly, Jiayana's attack from the rear suddenly destroyed the structure of the aircraft. Even if the aircraft can be strong, the personnel inside have no chance of survival without the protection of the balance system. Just the shock caused by the collision can kill them. After all, not everyone is a master of brainwave power like Delphine. After learning about it in recent days, Big Mosquito finally knows that brainwave power possessors like Delphine are not a cabbage in these interstellar civilizations. At least in this gray-yellow star that belongs to the edge of the planet, they are extremely rare. Even if they appear, they are mostly in the army of several aspects. It is impossible for such a person to appear among ordinary police officers. Boom! Just as Jia Yan was watching, the wreckage of the aircraft below exploded again. The shock wave soared into the sky, once again creating an explosion crater with a diameter of about 50 meters on the ground. Flames and smoke flew into the sky, and the strong mist instantly covered a large area of the sky. The searching aircraft in the distance seemed to have a target. Thinking of this direction, it came quickly. But at this time, the Big Mosquito was also flying downward quickly. The flames of the wreckage of the aircraft were still rising into the sky, but the Big Mosquito didn't have any fear. His body had developed a resistance to high temperatures a long time ago, even dating back to the time when mosquitoes were more than 10 centimeters long. He already had a resistance. At this time, he rushed directly into the flames. The several police aircraft behind them were not slow. If you can't get everything done before they come over, it's too late. The compound eyes were full of fiery red, and the world in front of Jia Yan was the color of red flames. I remember this is the part. The wreckage had already had huge cracks, and Jia Yan no longer looked at the parts of the aircraft at this time. He knows that these things may be much better than ordinary metals. It may even play a supporting role in his current mutation, but there is no time now. He can only make a choice. Collect what may work best for you. That is the core power of this aircraft. In the mutation of Neptune, Jia Yan once had the core energy source of an Asta aircraft. But he didn't dare to absorb it at that time. Even the core is still in his own aircraft. The current aircraft belongs to the Asta people. Naturally, it is only suitable to have that kind of core. Under familiar circumstances, Jia Yan tore open a piece of armor covering the bottom of the aircraft. The flames are still burning. What was burning was none other than the liquid lubricating oil of the aircraft. Originally, this was something that would hardly burn. However, under the huge explosion and impact, they also reacted chemically, directly cooperating with the fuel of other people in the aircraft, and burned violently. Some corpses appeared on the ground, and they were all alien vigilantes in the aircraft. Jia Yan didn't look at them at all and directly searched the bottom of the aircraft. Sure enough. At that moment, the aircraft in the distance were getting closer, and the nearest one was even within 1 kilometer. Jia Yan suddenly caught a shining object in the flames. This kind of thing actually has a strong attraction to Jia Yan. Ha ha ha. It's indeed something useful to me. When Jia Yan saw this object, his eyes immediately lit up with excitement. Walk. One of the aircraft over there is already very close, and the gun barrel at the front of the aircraft is already flashing a fiery red color. At this time, a dark and huge body rushed out from the burning flames on the ground with a powerful momentum. Boom boom boom. That ferocious body, that terrifying mouth parts. That fierce murderous intention, that sharp knife-shaped horny body full of life. All the majestic features of the giant mosquito were revealed under the gaze of the pursuing police aircraft. Check the biobank and see what kind of monster this is. I saw the big mosquito flying through the jungle at a speed that was almost as fast as a few police aircraft over there. In an aircraft behind, a police officer with the highest position in the area gave a search order in a low voice. There are 7 or 8 levels of vigilantes on this planet. This Asta vigilante, who is the leader of several aircraft, is already at a mid-level level and can be said to be an elite. The other police officers were all angrily chasing the big mosquito, but he was not too angry, but wanted to find out the details of this flying monster. Soon, the man in charge gave an answer. Report. This, a life form that completely matches this monster does not exist, but, 300 years ago, an exploration ship of the Asta Kingdom once delivered a report of a similar life form. This kind of similar his life form comes from a planet called Earth. Although their appearance is similar, their size is completely inconsistent with the target, only about 1 centimeter in length. About 1 centimeter? That's definitely not the case. You must know that the individual in front of them is nearly 20 meters long. It can be said that there is a huge difference between the two. Moreover, the so-called Earth has never been heard of among nearby living planets. It may be a primitive planet. Even if a powerful monster appears on such a planet, it is impossible for it to come to this planet. It is not that simple to know that such a thing is not at all simple. As a new life planet, it is definitely big news to enter the embrace of so many interstellar civilizations. At least it is impossible. Even they, the police officers, do not know about it. What kind of monster is this monster? The middle-level police officer had doubts as he looked at the large mosquitoes that kept changing speed in the woods ahead. It's a pity that he didn't know that his method was already correct. This big mosquito is exactly the kind of life form that my men investigated, that is, the little blood-sucking monster on the Earth, the mosquito. But such a thing is like a fantasy to these police officers. Even among such advanced civilizations, one cannot believe that there are living beings that can ride gravitational waves and travel several light years away. After all, gravitational waves are an absolutely mysterious and terrifying existence for these civilizations. But that big mosquito rode on gravitational waves, and even brought a representative of the Empire on Earth. Sir, that monster is too cunning, we can't catch him in the jungle. A police officer was operating the aircraft, his head covered with beads of sweat. How is that possible? The middle-level police officer looked shocked. You must know that they are combat aircraft. On this planet, the only ones more advanced than them are the military's combat weapons, but this huge monster, he was actually able to escape calmly under the siege of these aircraft, which even the pilot found difficult. When he looked intently, he saw on the monitoring screen in front of him, there were indeed several cunning, or in other words extremely flexible bodies of the big mosquitoes. Jia Yan is in the woods, and keeps flying. Sure enough, once the number of aircraft being pursued increases, it will not be so easy to escape. Jia Yan looked at the fleet of aircraft behind him. He didn't care about 1 or 2 aircraft, but once the number increased, even if he was flying in the tall and deep woods, some of the aircraft would chase him in the woods. The other part was flying in the sky, which made it impossible for him to escape simply. But, compared to flexibility, there is no way you two ships can match me. Boom boom boom. The big mosquito spread its speed and started to move violently in the forest. It directly reaches several times the speed of sound. The rear aircraft, at such a speed, were unable to catch up with 2 of them, and crashed into the trunk of a huge tree. The momentary pause caused them to lose sight of the big mosquito in an instant. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 410. No charge. To be honest, the book Giant Mosquito is really trying to cross the river by feeling the stones. From the first chapter, Bulletin U didn't have any reference. He just wrote it by thinking about the plot and imagining the routine bit by bit. Although it turns out that Bulletin U has no talent for innovation, so writing is very painful, but for more than half a year, Bulletin U has not stopped updating for a day or asked for leave for a day. I know that I am not good at writing, so I just wrote it silently, hoping that my efforts can gain everyone's understanding and a little gain. In fact, Bulletin U doesn't really want much, because the achievement goal I expect is just an achievement that other authors simply disdain. In fact, everyone may laugh when I tell you this. I once saw a new author who said that his average order was more than 300, but if it didn't reach 500, he would stop writing. As for Bulletin U, it sounds harsh, but he has actually written more than one book, so he cannot be considered a newcomer. Even on Cheateon.com, most of the authors can only be considered Bulletin U's descendants. But Bulletin U, an old man, now demands even less than those newcomers who disdain 500 per order. That is this book. When it is finally completed, it can reach 300 subscriptions. This is Bayou's goal. Very simple, right? In fact, this is not necessarily the case. When the editor has basically given up on this book and is unlikely to recommend it again, Bayou roughly knows that this book is still a bit banned, and the editor really cannot recommend it. The only thing Bayou can rely on is everyone's word of mouth spread, and new book friends came to subscribe to the book on their own initiative. However, it is too difficult to increase the number of subscriptions. In fact, the current average subscription is just shy of 200. Without the help of website recommendations, it would be extremely difficult to increase the average subscription to 300. Bulletin U knows that there are many brothers and sisters who are die-hard supporters of Giant Mosquito. It's you, too, who insist on writing down day after day even though the number of orders is only over 100 and less than 200. In fact, how much does it cost to order more than 100 yuan? You can do the math. For an even order of more than 100, about half of the starting point will be deducted. Well, Bulletin U will not be counted. If you calculate it, you will blush. Bayou can actually be proud of such a small reward but insisting on writing it down. Those authors who started books with me, and whose collections far surpassed those of Giant Mosquito, and whose subscriptions exceeded that of Giant Mosquito, were later replaced one by one, or were unfinished. I feel a faint sense of pride in giving in. This is my persistence and everyone's persistence. Bulletin U feels that he has been able to persist until now, not only because of himself, but also because of everyone's help and encouragement, otherwise Bulletin U would not have been able to persist until now. In fact, Bayou is a person who refuses to admit defeat at heart. In other words, Jia Yan's mentality is somewhat similar to Bayou's, that is, he never gives up. So what if we order more than 100? So what if the editor gives up? I don't believe in evil. It has been half a year since I opened the book in August 2015, including the day of New Year's Eve, including the day of illness and pain, the day I went to the hospital for a CT scan and a blood test. Including the days when love was broken up and the planned marriage fell through. Also, there are too many code words, and my fingers need to be smeared with lotion every day. Through all this pain, Bayou never gave up coding, let alone updating. For half a year, I never stopped updating. Although it was a little slower, I am proud. Not a day off, not a day making excuses. Do not believe in evil. Fight to the end. This is Jia Yan's belief and Bulletin U's belief. Brothers and sisters, Bulletin U continues to implore everyone to subscribe to Cheateon. Maybe Bulletin U's writing is not very good, but Bulletin U will use his efforts to repay everyone. If the subscription results are exciting, even if it is just a little progress, Bulletin U will. So what if we add more updates? Even if I am exhausted to death, I will work hard like Jia Yan. I beg you for a genuine subscription. It only costs a few dollars a month, but it can support Bayou to the greatest extent. It may even change the life of Bayou, an uncle who is 30 years old but has not yet married. Thank you to all the book friends who have read the official version, thank you. Persist in effort. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 411. Thank you very much for the rewards. Bulletin U's heart was so excited that he couldn't calm down for a long time. I will definitely persevere. As I said before, 2 million words is too little to complete the book, and 3 million words is not much. 4 million words or 5 million words is the giant mosquito that Bulletin U wants to write. Persist in. Persist in. Jia Yan continued to wind around in the woods. Bang. The last aircraft chasing behind was also blocked by tall trees and was forced to stop. And the two ships above. Jia Yan Fang, above the tall woods, there are two other aircraft, high in the sky, monitoring the movements of the mosquitoes, and constantly sending the exact location of the mosquitoes to their comrades. You guys, the ferocious aura flashed violently in the big mosquito's compound eyes. Just after Jia Yan got rid of all the aircraft in the woods at a distance. Boom! The huge body of a dark monster suddenly jumped out of the dense jungle. How dare you show up? Looking for death. An aircraft flew overhead and found traces of large mosquitoes. Suddenly there was an artillery system, launching its own attack. The fiery red light passed by my body. Jia Yan only felt that the fiery red light grazing his body caused burning pain in his exoskeleton. This kind of pain gave him a strong sense of danger, but more importantly, the fighting spirit that he had gradually forgotten after being on this planet for so long was boiling up. The big mosquito had a shining light in its compound eyes. At this moment, it suddenly looked forward and stretched out its front feet. Time and time again, my body was affected by these various dangers, but these things were defeated once, and then they came again. Jia Yan didn't know if he was too kind. Or maybe he was too attracted to these enemies. He just felt that he was a little tired after fighting again and again. Maybe in the previous city, Jia Yan was honestly waiting for the so-called opportunity to appear. He probably knew deep down in his heart that such waiting was actually impossible. But he recognized the temporary stability in his heart. Maybe the war weariness played a role in it. But such a thing. After the unexpected events of the past few days, Ling Da Mosquito had a clear understanding that it was himself. In fact, what is more adaptable is fighting like this. Boom 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 boom. The long-lost feeling of real combat made the mutated blood in the mosquito's body boil. He avoided the scorching red fire. Although he was avoiding it very dangerously, it still made the aircraft shooting red light in front of him feel a sense of fear. What? He was able to escape. The police officers in the aircraft were all horrified. This big mosquito really surprised them. Previously, this big mosquito actually defeated one of their teammates and even completely destroyed the aircraft they were riding in. You must know that this is a police-type combat aircraft given to them by the Asta people some time ago. Ordinary combat pets will leave little traces on it, not to mention destroying it. It's not that simple, but this monster can actually destroy a ship, which is simply amazing. But that's all. They all thought that this monster was definitely due to good luck or some other objective factors. That's why I was lucky enough to defeat the aircraft that my colleagues were on. According to the previous battle records, the aircraft that these colleagues were on was destroyed without launching any powerful attacks. The peace officers in this aircraft didn't want to end up like those at the same time, so they directly launched their strongest attack at this time. They thought it was a big mosquito in front of them. It is absolutely impossible to block the powerful attack of the aircraft. After all, the opponent cannot really be a monster that can match those military soldiers. But their thoughts were completely shattered at this moment. The big mosquito's body, in a blink of an eye, dodged the red light attack without any intention of holding back. After that, he attacked the aircraft above with an even more violent force. The intersection between the two only happened in a moment. Jia Yan's front foot pierced the front of the aircraft. He did not choose to avoid the opponent's gunfire this time, because he had already launched an attack before. Jia Yan did not believe that the opponent's red light gunfire could quickly prepare for the next violent attack. Jia Yan has been fighting this kind of red light for so long, and the only weakness he has discovered is that the more powerful the attack, the more time it takes to accumulate energy. So after dodging a fierce attack at this time, he simply ignored it and headed towards the aircraft to attack face to face. Sure enough, when his front foot penetrated the opponent's aircraft, the gun barrel in front of Jia Yan actually just hurriedly fired an attack that was only 1/10 of the power of the previous attack. This is because there is no time to store energy. Phew! A ripple appeared on Jia Yan's chest, and a little blue light appeared in front of his chest. Then, the red light that hit this place was like the waves hitting the rocks, breaking into countless petals in an instant. At this time, Jia Yan's front foot penetrated the opponent's protective armor. There seemed to be screams of terror coming from the front, and Jia Yan smiled cruelly in his heart. His attack does not have the ability to destroy the opponent in one blow, but since he succeeded in one blow, Jia Yan will not stop simply. Bang 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 bang. He lifted up his front legs and stabbed them on the surface of the aircraft. Jia Yan keenly discovered that the defensive metal currently blocking him was extremely tough. It may be the most powerful metal among the many alien tools he encountered. It's no wonder that this kind of aircraft is much more advanced than anything in the solar system. Moreover, he is stabbing directly in front of the aircraft. The defense here is definitely the highest in the entire aircraft. The most powerful place. However, Jia Yan still used the power of his brain waves to wrap the knife-shaped horns of his front feet and pierce the metal hard. Even if he is tough, he is still an aircraft. The flying function limits his defense and cannot be compared to the weapons and fortifications on the ground. The speed of Jia Yan's front foot attack. It was like a violent storm, making a clang, bang, 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 bang sound, hitting the front of the aircraft. Under the lightning-like attack, he didn't know how many times he struck in 1 second. Phew! Finally, under a different voice, Jia Yanfang's aircraft appeared in flames. It turned out that his attack had already broken through the surface of the defense. The delicate internal structure was attacked. The gleam in the big mosquito's compound eyes once again had the meaning of twinkling. If he released his foot now, this aircraft is about to crash. Unfortunately, he couldn't get the loot from the craft. However, Jia Yan did not directly release his feet, but flapped his wings desperately, causing the out-of-control aircraft to fly. Jia Yan's police aircraft flying in the air was about to attack him. Naturally, he will not forget that there are 2 aircraft in the sky. At the moment when the attacking aircraft is about to approach, he was fierce. Grab the out-of-control aircraft with your front legs and throw it towards the opponent. The aircraft was already very wary of the fighting power of the big mosquito, but it never expected that the big mosquito would actually do something like this. The strength of Jia Yan's feet was actually not small at all when he grabbed the aircraft. It also flies extremely fast, so at this time, with the inertia of flight, the aircraft in the foot is ejected, and another aircraft that approaches about 200 meters has no time to react. In an instant, 2 aircraft appeared. Collided together. Boom. The 2 aircraft are both extremely hard things. When they collide together, it's like a conflict. I don't know who is stronger and who is weaker. But both of them will lose, that's for sure. And Jia Yan's previous speed. It has been upgraded to an extremely fast speed. It even reaches about 15 times the speed of sound on Earth. The kinetic energy of things thrown out in that situation cannot be underestimated. When the 2 aircraft collided, a flame burst out, and then the 2 together brought out a stream of light and fell down below. What a shame, no trophies to be had. Jia Yan sensed the energy in his body and had already used a lot. If he stayed to fight with the remaining aircraft in the woods that could not be pursued temporarily, the outcome would be unpredictable. So I had to take the opportunity to leave at this time. The big Mosquito spreads its wings. Boom boom boom. The speed that broke through the speed of sound on this planet was suddenly revealed. At this time, the speed he possesses cannot be underestimated. I don't know what the speed of sound is on this planet, but the specific value is probably not much different from the speed of sound on Earth. In one breath, Jia Yan made his speed exceed the speed of sound. His huge figure overwhelmed the sky, and countless life forms on the ground looked sideways /BR/U003E. The aircraft behind them finally broke away from the shackles of the forest one by one. Soared towards the sky. But they were just two fellow aircraft falling toward the ground while blazing with flames. Boom boom boom. A loud explosion resounded across the sky, and the two aircraft hit the ground, erupting into violent smoke and dust. Even the aircraft of several colleagues that had just taken off were shaken by the shockwave of the explosion, and one of them even almost lost control. The shockwave raged for more than 10 seconds. The center point of the explosion was already devastated, and a large forest was razed to the ground. The few surviving police aircraft were stunned and speechless inside, as if they were frightened. In fact, it was almost the same. Jia Yan's attack power simply exceeded their expectations. The first police aircraft chased Jia Yan alone, but was destroyed by his counterattack. They could also guess whether this big Mosquito had some luck. But now these two ships were destroyed by the big Mosquito. It was really real, and it was just between lightning and flint. The terrible monster destroyed them all at once. If the remaining 4 or 5 aircraft continue to pursue, is there a risk of the entire army being annihilated? Thinking of this, the several aircraft here fell silent. There was a touch of panic, secretly flowing. The big Mosquito that caused the trouble in front still did not disappear from sight, but the other party's brainwave power must have reached an extremely powerful level. They found that the farther away they were at this time, their advanced detection equipment, the monster's life response becomes weaker. If we don't pursue him, he will disappear soon. Ahem, we have lost track of that monster. It's a pity that the comrades of Team 7 and Team 11, they paid the price with their lives but did not keep that illegal life form. Okay, we have something to face. There are no relics of them. In the leading aircraft, the middle-level police officer coughed and issued an order. Lost it? The monster's back can still be seen. The life forms in the other aircraft were all dumbfounded by the leader who was telling lies with his eyes open. However, they looked at the back of the flying monster, whose back seemed more majestic. After thinking about it for a while, everyone fell silent. Since the leaders said no, then of course they don't either. Keep chasing. God knows if they will really be wiped out. As a life form that only comes from various interstellar civilizations, they naturally do not have much sense of identification with this planet. Even as a peace officer, they choose to face possible dangers. Of course, it's better to protect yourself wisely. So at this time, everyone acquiesced to the officer's words and turned a blind eye to the monster that killed so many colleagues. Jia Yan naturally didn't think about this. He just made plans if the other party came to pursue him. She continued to sink into the woods. After all, the distance between the two sides was not short, so if she fell into the woods and escaped, her chances of escape were still great. No matter what happens, you can still continue to have a life and death battle with the opponent in the vast gray-yellow woods. It's not certain who will win when the time comes. Didn't you come after me? Compound Eyes looked at the back quietly. The big Mosquito finally had a touch of relief in his expression. After all, his energy is not full. Jia Yan just fought like this and found that his energy, which was less than half, was even weaker at this time. He felt that he now only had 1/3 of the combat power of his heyday. Of course, there is no absolute answer to this kind of thing. It is just like a human being. When he is hungry, who knows how much strength he has? Maybe in a life or death situation, he will burst out with a bit more strength than usual. That is not impossible. After all, reality cannot be shown by data. But when you are powerless, it is naturally better to try not to fight. Jia Yan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when the pursuers didn't come from behind. After fighting, I really feel that the depressed mood recently has been relieved a little. I am really used to fighting. Jia Yan smiled bitterly. During the days on this planet, Jia Yan gradually felt very depressed. It was a feeling that even if the energy was insufficient, the energy was still getting more and more abundant, and he wanted to vent but had nowhere to vent. Therefore, he was very depressed some time ago. Fighting has been happening since his rebirth. He has become accustomed to fighting under great pressure, but once he has not experienced real fighting for a long time, he will feel uncomfortable inside. Now in a big battle, although in the end you only get an energy core, your mood has changed, which is a good thing. Perhaps I will miss peace in the future, but obviously, I am still warlike now. I don't know if this is my original mentality, or after being reborn as a monster, this monster brought me of. Jia Yan's bitter smile became even worse. In fact, this kind of problem is a matter of his own heart. He looks forward to a peaceful life without fighting, but his true heart has long been accustomed to fighting, and even the feeling of getting stronger step by step. It had been implanted deep in his heart for a long time. If he didn't fight, he would feel uncomfortable. The dark and huge body soared in the sky. The police aircraft behind were looking at the big mosquito's body from a distance, but they didn't dare to pursue it, and they were gnashing their teeth with hatred. Jia Yan's speed slowed down. Since there is no pursuit, he is naturally happy to fly slowly. Not long after, he sank down, not only disappearing from the opponent's observation system, but even from the naked eye. This is hiding deep in the jungle. Okay, the other party probably left deep in the jungle. Let's clean up the scene quickly. Let's leave. Several police aircraft over there were on alert and slowly flew to the ground. At this time, some personnel got out of the aircraft with sad faces and sorted out the remains of their colleagues who had exploded. There are actually quite a few such things on this planet, so they all look proficient. The police aircraft here are all the troops here, and all the aircraft that were chasing the drug lords were here. After all, the monster Jia Yan's fighting power is too strong. Compared with those drug lords who are fighting for a living, his side is obviously a greater threat, so the team over there escaped extremely smoothly. At this time, these police aircraft teams had suffered heavy losses and were in no mood to pursue that team again. The big mosquitoes have indeed left this area. But he was not escaping, but was flying. His compound eyes were shining brightly, and he could tell the direction. Heading somewhere. Since the aircraft behind him are no longer pursuing him, he can continue what he was doing before. His target is that huge convoy. I don't know if they were defeated by those aircraft and are now in disarray. Jia Yan didn't want any accident to happen to the gathering point of life forms that he finally encountered. It was more than 50 kilometers away from the fierce battle between the Mosquito and those aircraft. There is a large group of vehicles moving here, with bursts of mist behind their butts and flying dust flying high in the sky, running crazily. They were the huge convoy that was attacked by police aircraft. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 412. Although more than half of the vehicles had been lost, and even several giant vehicles tens of meters long, with only one remaining at this time, the convoy with heavy casualties still maintained its formation and moved forward. For similar teams, such things are common. After all, as illegal characters, they have to suffer such an end. Everyone enters this industry with the idea of making huge profits, but after seeing too many deaths, not only the mentality gradually becomes numb, but also whether they can really make a fortune, no one mentions it anymore, and they just continue to live like this indifferently. The convoy continued to move. Lulu is a life form from the Shanran civilization. Her hometown is suffering from the largest disaster. A group of crazy scientists are trying to subvert the world. Countless fighting machines and life forms they have created are destroying her hometown. Raging. So she and her family escaped, and their mother disappeared at some point. Later, her father said that there was a way to get rich on this gray-yellow planet, and even her mother might come back, so the father and daughter came to this war planet. Unfortunately, when he first got into this business, her father had a conflict with a drug lord and was captured by his men. He was never heard from again. Lulu didn't know if her father would come back, so she wandered the streets for a long time when she was young. Later, he was picked up and taken home by the current leader, who has been raising him until now. As a native of the Shanran civilization, Lulu has excellent eyesight, which is the biggest reason why the leader adopted her. If you trust the equipment too much, you will be killed by the equipment one day. These were the original words spoken by the leader, and it was with these words that Lu, who had good eyesight, had a bite to eat. At this time, Lulu was like a lookout, sitting on the top of a car, looking at the sky in the distance. Suddenly, a dark shadow appeared in her sight. Lulu was shocked. As a lookout, her dynamic vision was excellent, but while the black shadow was still flashing by, she was unable to capture its specific figure. This shows how terrifying the opponent's speed is. Yes, yes. Lulu picked up a communicator next to her. I was about to scream. Boom 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 boom. But there was a strong wind in front of me, and there was an instant huge wind pressure. This made this little alien life form feel unsteady. When Lulu was waiting for a reaction, the scenery in front of her made her expression change in surprise. More than 10 meters high in the air. A huge head was facing this little alien right in the middle. This head is extremely terrifying. A slender mouthpart was facing the alien larvae from a distance. She almost screamed. And Jia Yan also had a strange feeling at this time, when facing this alien larvae. There was actually a little bit of surprise. He had clearly seen the combat effectiveness of this convoy before. You can be sure that it doesn't pose much of a threat to you. So after thinking about it for a while, Jia Yan felt that he didn't need to beat around the bush and just came here directly. Let's stop the life forms here. Being too cautious would be a blasphemy to his current strength. After so many days of observation, he found that except for the white life form he encountered before, the dangers on this planet were actually far less great than he feared. Moreover, this planet has too many factors that check and balance the forces of all parties. Jia Yan feels that his strength is not too weak on this planet, at least when he is not facing forces other than the official army, he can be completely unscrupulous. So this time it comes with a bang. He did not expect that on top of a building in this convoy, a strange species that looked like a human being depicted in ancient times appeared in front of him. So surprised that he walked directly in front of this alien larvae. This little alien larva is a humanoid life that looks similar to the beasts described in many books on the earth. She has long ears and looks like a rabbit, and her face is like that of a human on earth, with distinctive facial features. Maybe it's the red eyes that give it good eyesight, but its short legs and bare feet make it look cute. It seems to be the kind of cuteness that many people on earth call it. Things, very cute. Sure enough, alien life forms have various shapes, which is very interesting. Jia Yan showed interest. Ah, finally, the little rabbit-like life form on the other side screamed in terror. Her voice was that high-pitched one, and it sounded like she was in a state of panic. Suddenly there were weapon attacks below, launching towards Jia Yan. The big mosquito had no intention of harming the little rabbit-eared alien. When he saw the weapons below attacking him, he instead surrounded him with his front legs and caught the little rabbit-eared alien in his front legs. And he used his body to block all attacks from below. Phew! 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 The gray rays of light hit the big mosquito's body, but they could only helplessly stir up ripples like waves, without much impact on the big mosquito itself. The little alien with rabbit ears was trembling in Jia Yan's front feet, as if he was overly frightened. Jia Yan didn't really want to save her or anything, but if he didn't do this, this little alien would definitely die if he was affected by the war. At that time, it will be much more difficult to talk to the alien life forms below. There were attacks one after another in front of him, but the big mosquito's compound eyes filled with brilliant light still showed no emotion. He knew that these attacks did not cause much harm to him. Not to mention the blue defense, even his ordinary exoskeleton defense could not shake it at all. The place where he is now is the largest car body in the entire convoy. This car body is actually a huge vehicle that was turned into a huge vehicle after a relatively tall house collapsed in the small town. At this time, it is already the tallest car in the entire fleet. The alien life forms on those small vehicles each raised their own weapons and launched attacks at Jia Yan. They all treated Jia Yan as an enemy. Swish, swish, swish. Attacks lit up one after another, and they mainly used weapons that seemed to emit gray light. But this weapon fires. Hitting the body of the big mosquito flying in the sky can only cause a certain light effect and not even any real damage. It may even be that their power is not even comparable to the large caliber sniper weapons in the Earth world. But it can be fired continuously. Perhaps in terms of energy endurance, it is compared to earthly gunpowder weapons. Just a little stronger. Jia Yan analyzed the combat effectiveness of this place, but when he saw these life forms, they were firing weapons one by one. Some individuals moved the muzzles of the vehicles below. It was as if there was a solemn light in the compound eyes. Although Jia Yan was confident of withstanding this kind of artillery fire, the risk was too great. He didn't come here to fight, but to cooperate with each other. Please stop. Jia Yan activated his brainwave power. At this time, he already had a more intuitive understanding of the combat effectiveness of the life forms below. Naturally, the following attacks cannot be stopped directly. Jia Yan had no choice but to fly a little further, and then continued to use his brainwave power to activate the sound. I'm not here to hurt you. We have something to negotiate. Please stop attacking. His Ostal language has a very thick accent, but his words can still be understood. Stop. In the ground attack convoy, a life form that looked very similar to a frog issued an order. Jia Yan discovered that on this planet, in addition to the Osta people who are very similar to people on Earth, there are many frog-like life forms. He doesn't know if it is caused by special reasons. The leader of this convoy seems to be this frog-like life form. After this life form issued the order, the attack gradually stopped. Under the warning of the opponent, Jia Yan flew to the ground. Head directly towards that frog-like life form. There were about 500 to 600 large and small vehicles around. Because the convoy was too large, only part of them had attacked Jia Yan before, and at this time, there were also some members of the convoy. We didn't even notice what happened, which shows how huge this convoy is. This is what it became after being attacked by the sheriff's aircraft. If it were before, this fleet would have been even bigger. Boom boom boom. The big mosquito fell gently to the ground. Before that, all the surrounding life forms had moved away from this place. Only the vehicle with the leader of the frog monster still stayed here. It can be seen that the opponent is the most powerful in this team just because of his courage. Moreover, Jia Yan discovered that this frogman still had some brainwave power. Perhaps this was one of the reasons why he was able to lead such a large convoy. After Jia Yan fell, he released the little rabbit-eared alien he was holding in his feet. This little alien, about 50 centimeters in size, was holding it in Jia Yan's feet. Any kind of injury would be a big shock. As she cried, her tear glands, like those of humans, shed tears from her eyes. While running towards the convoy over there. Poor Lulu, she was terrified. As a small life form that is only 2 years old and has a lifespan of about 8 years on Earth, How could she have ever seen such a terrifying scene? Moreover, the huge flying monster also caught her in its feet and scared the rabbit to death. Baby. Jia Yan was even more amused when he looked at the little bunny ears running forward quickly using their short and strong hind feet. Jia Yan was even more amused. If this kind of life form was known to the people on Earth, it would definitely arouse people's liking. It's really cute. Powerful life form, I am very grateful to you for helping us escape the attacks of those sheriff's aircraft. I don't know, what are you doing to intercept our convoy now? The frog monster hiding in the car body had a solemn expression on the frog's face. Although Jia Yan couldn't tell whether he was scared or not, he thought he was still frightened by the existence that could escape from the hands of so many police officers. Emotional. Jia Yan didn't have much doubts about the fact that the other party knew that he had indirectly saved them. After all, he had revealed his figure before, and those aircraft could detect him. Even if the convoy fell behind, it would not be able to continue. You can't even see it flying. It would be easier for the other party to talk about it first. I have no ill intentions. I just hope to cooperate with you. Jia Yan activated his brainwave power. Before, his brainwave power is undifferentiated, it is only activated within a few hundred meters of the surrounding area. Now he is talking to a living body, so he just suppresses his brainwave power near the body of this living body. What a powerful brainwave power, suddenly. The frog life form in the car felt horrified. To be honest, Jia Yan thinks he looks like a monster, but in fact, Jia Yan himself is the real monster in the eyes of others. The body is powerful to the extent of more than 10 meters, which is not possible on other planets. It is also rare, and his combat power is not comparable to that of a real life form with a body of more than 10 meters. If any monster can defeat the sheriff's aircraft over there, then the technological power of these technological life forms is too cheap. So far actually. This frog life form finally believed the flying monster in front of him. It's really an existence that can defeat those aircraft. Just from this unbelievably powerful brainwave power, you know how extraordinary he is. I don't know what kind of cooperation you want to start with us. As you can see, we are just a small convoy that has just lost most of its vehicles. This frog life form did not explicitly say that they are a drug lord organization, because this is a massacre. Things everyone knows. Jia Yan's huge body shook his head after looking at the tattered convoy around him. The previous convoy was already tattered enough, but after being attacked by the sheriff's aircraft, it became even more tattered. Unbearable. But he didn't want to give up the non-urban life form gathering area that he finally found so easily. Don't be nervous. The cooperation I'm talking about is very simple and doesn't require you to pay too much. What I can help you with is safety. You have also seen that my combat power is enough to compare with those of the sheriff's aircraft. As for you, you don't have enough fighting strength, but my fighting strength is enough to protect you. If you agree, we will discuss it in detail next. Jia Yan stopped talking. This was just his words. If the other party refused to agree to this basic matter, then he wouldn't mind beating up the convoy again. The leader could also be killed. It seemed that there was still a lot of trouble here. There are 10 to 20,000 living beings, and there is always one who is obedient. Obviously, the other party also thought about this matter. After thinking about it in a daze, the big frog reluctantly agreed. Okay, powerful life form, I agree to your conditions. I hope you will not make us who are already unfortunate even more unfortunate. This guy is very good at talking. He knew that given the strength of the other party, even if the car he was riding in was the strongest in the entire fleet and had the ability to fly and escape, the other party would definitely be able to tear it apart easily. Haven't you seen how strong those aircraft are? However, this monster was able to pursue it, but none of the sheriff's aircraft could be seen. It can be seen that either they were all destroyed by this monster, or some other situation occurred. In short, if this monster can compete with the sheriff's aircraft team, it is definitely not something he can resist. The car body he was riding in was unlikely to be able to resist this monster. Very good, you know the general situation very well. Jia Yan smiled lightly. Not long after, the convoy continued to set off. Under the vast smoke and dust, above the largest car body, a huge dark figure, like a towering hill, was riding on the top of the car body. It's Jia Yan. Since this place was still not far from the place of fighting, Jia Yan did not run in with the convoy for long. Instead, after the other party expressed their willingness to cooperate, he directly asked them to leave. After all, he did not want to fight with the aircraft again. Hello, hello. Jia Yan was standing alone on the top of the largest car. His body was almost the same size as the car, and the wheels were dented under the weight. Beside his body, a small body stood there shivering, tremblingly sending greetings to Jia Yan. She is the little alien with bunny ears. At this point the little alien was almost crying. Because she has always been responsible for the lookout, the top of the car is where she is responsible. In addition, Jia Yan did not kill her before, so those adult aliens sent her to the top of the car again, with the reputation of continuing to exercise her responsibilities. She was actually ordered to supervise the big mosquito. But how could this little creature dare to supervise? At this time, it was too scared to move. Her small stature, next to Jia Yan's huge body, is like an ant compared to an elephant. Are you afraid of me? Jia Yan crawled on the car body, the body kept shaking with the shaking of the car. He hadn't been in a car for a long time and was used to flying by himself. Now he was a little uncomfortable riding in a car. He felt uncomfortable. No. No. Woo, a little bit, Lulu is only a little bit scared. The little life form was so scared that it hugged its head, with tears rolling in its eyes. Really interesting. Jia Yan looked at her. He happened to need information about this convoy, so he should tease this little alien more. Your name is Lulu? Tell me, what kind of civilized life form are you? Also, tell me all the information about this convoy. Otherwise, I will eat you in one bite. Wow. Don't eat Lulu. Lulu doesn't taste good. The little life form burst into tears, regardless of Jia Yan, a giant mosquito that obviously doesn't have a mouth that can eat people. Thank you very much for your subscription. It has increased a bit in the past 2 days, and we are getting closer to the goal of 200 subscriptions. I hope more book friends can support the original subscription. Thank you.